There's a silent war happening inside millions of people every single day. A war against themselves, and most don't even know they're losing it. They wake up already feeling not good enough. They scroll through their phones, comparing, criticizing, and wishing they were someone else. They punish themselves for every mistake, every flaw, every scar they carry. And the saddest part, they think this is normal. They think hating themselves a little bit is just being realistic. They think self-love is some luxury they'll never deserve. But tonight, that lie ends here. Because what you're about to discover is the truth that no one teaches in school, no one posts about on social media, and no one can take away from you once you hear it. Real self-love isn't something you have to earn. It's something you remember. It's something you already are. And with the wisdom of ancient Buddhism, we're going to peel away every toxic story, every heavy burden, every cruel voice inside you, one by one, until what's left is the undeniable truth. You were never broken. You were always enough. You just forgot. So get comfortable, stay close, and listen carefully. Because by the time you reach the end of this journey, you won't just understand self-love. You will feel it living inside you, like a fire that will never burn out again. Let's begin. And if you're still here, it means some part of you is ready. Ready to stop surviving and start living with yourself differently. So let's go straight into the first doorway of real self-love, the one most people never dare to open, the mirror of kindness. There's a hidden place inside every human heart that has been waiting a very long time to be seen. Not judged, not fixed, just seen. It's the part that broke the first time love was withheld, the part that tightened up the first time shame was thrown like a stone. It's not weak, it's not wrong, it's not a mistake. It is the wounded innocence that still exists underneath every hard shell, every angry outburst, every self-destructive habit. And until this part is recognized with softness instead of criticism, until it is approached like a lost child found crying in the woods, self-love will always feel like a trick you can't figure out. The world has trained people to stand over their wounds like cruel judges, to demand explanations, to label themselves as defective for feeling pain. But Buddhism teaches another way, a radical way. Not to destroy the wounded self, not to deny it, but to sit beside it with open arms, exactly as it is, without needing it to change first. The moment you look inward and stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What hurt you so badly that you had to build these defenses?" everything shifts. Self-love is not born from pride or performance. It begins the moment kindness touches the places inside you that you once decided were too broken to be forgiven. It starts when you see the trembling parts of yourself not as enemies, but as survivors of a battle you were too young to fight. No one teaches this because a world addicted to comparison profits from self-hatred. If everyone remembered their inner child's sacredness, advertising would collapse, industries would starve, and people would stop chasing things to fix a pain that was never caused by a lack of achievement, beauty, or wealth in the first place. It was caused by forgetting their own enoughness. Buddhism whispers a truth modern life screams over. Your pain is not proof of failure. It is proof that you are still tender enough to feel, still human enough to heal. When you approach yourself the way a wise monk would approach an abandoned, terrified child, the whole script of your life starts to rewrite itself. Instead of demanding that the child stop crying, you kneel down, you open your arms. You don't say, "Why aren't you tougher?" You say, "You're safe now, I'm here. You don't have to be alone anymore." This is not weakness. This is the first real act of strength, and it is revolutionary. No guru, no success, no relationship will give you peace until you do this for yourself. Every self-sabotage is a cry from that child asking, "Will you finally listen to me?" Every time you numb, lash out, give up, it's not because you're hopeless. It's because there's a wounded innocence inside you that still thinks no one will come for it unless it's perfect. But you are not here to earn your own acceptance. You are here to reclaim it. One of the most sacred teachings of Buddhism is that suffering is not personal. It's not a punishment, not a condemnation. It's the natural outcome of forgetting the true nature of life and the true nature of yourself. That part of you that aches, that feels too much, that struggles, was never meant to be a reason for shame. It was meant to be an invitation back to your original softness, the unbreakable tenderness that existed before the world taught you otherwise. And when you meet that wounded place with kindness instead of judgment, you start undoing the karma of harshness that has been passed down for generations. You stop the cycle where it matters most, inside your own heart. Self-love begins with recognition, not repair. You don't need to fix what's hurt inside you before you deserve love. You need to see it, honor it, hold it as precious, just like a monk would hold a chipped bowl used for sacred offerings, seeing beauty in its cracks, not in spite of them. Every memory that stings, every regret that burns, every insecurity that gnaws at you like a hungry ghost is another chance to practice the mirror of kindness. To say to yourself, "I see you. You are not disgusting. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are still worthy." Right now, without conditions, without edits, without needing to explain your wounds or perform your worth. Many people fear that if they show themselves kindness, they'll become lazy, soft, selfish. That fear is not born from truth. It's born from a world that profits off your self-rejection. In reality, the more tenderness you show yourself, the stronger you become. Kindness doesn't weaken you. It wakes up your sleeping courage. It makes you more resilient, not less. Think of the greatest healers, the ones whose compassion changes lives. Were they weak, or were they the ones who turned their own pain into a bridge for others? It starts inside you, with one decision, the decision to stop being the executioner of your own heart. If you were to meet a child who had been bullied, beaten down, made to feel worthless, would you demand that they toughen up before you held them? Of course not. You would drop everything, rush to them, and embrace them with everything you have. So why is it so hard to offer the same to the parts of yourself that still carry those bruises? Why do you demand strength before offering safety? Real strength is offering safety first. Real healing is offering love first. That is the mirror of kindness. That is the first gateway to real self-love. When the Buddha spoke of compassion, he was not speaking only of giving it to others. He was also speaking of giving it to the most difficult being you will ever meet, yourself. And not just when you're proud of yourself, not just when you succeed, not just when you're spiritual enough, but when you're messy, when you're lost, when you think you are the least deserving of forgiveness. That's when it matters most. That's when the seeds of true transformation are planted. Meeting yourself with judgment only deepens the original wound. Meeting yourself with kindness begins to close it, slowly, gently, honestly. It won't happen overnight. Just as a broken tree takes seasons to heal, your own healing will unfold in rhythms beyond your control. But every act of self-kindness, every moment you hold yourself instead of criticizing yourself, is another stitch in the tapestry of your return to wholeness. It takes great courage to choose kindness when the world taught you cruelty. It takes fierce rebellion to soften when you were trained to harden. But every time you look into the mirror and choose to see a being worthy of tenderness, you are defying every lie you were ever told. You are choosing life over numbness. You are choosing freedom over fear. You don't have to wait until you are perfect to love yourself. You don't have to wait until your life looks like a glossy picture to offer yourself mercy. The child inside you is not waiting for you to become someone else. That child is waiting for you to finally say, "You are enough, exactly as you are." And when you say it, when you mean it, something ancient and beautiful begins to stir inside you. A memory, a knowing, the truth that you were never unworthy to begin with. You just forgot. This is why the mirror of kindness is not a luxury. It's not optional. It's the first and most necessary step toward reclaiming your real self. Without it, every affirmation, every meditation, every goal will feel hollow, because deep down, the part of you that's still hurting will keep asking, "Do you love me yet?" And the only answer that will ever silence that question is yes. Yes, I love you. Especially when you think you don't deserve it. Especially when you think you've failed. Especially when you don't know how to fix yourself. I love you then, most of all. Self-love is not a finish line you reach after fixing yourself. It is the soil you must plant your healing in, the water you must give your future, the air you must breathe in every day. It is not something you will achieve. It is something you must allow. And the more you allow kindness to flood the places you once rejected, the more you will see yourself not as a project to complete, but as a mystery to honor. Not as a problem to solve, but as a sacred life to protect. You are not broken, you are becoming. Hold the mirror up now. Look into it with the eyes of a mother seeing her lost child, a sage seeing a hidden jewel, a sky seeing the river reflecting its own beauty. This is the first secret of real self-love. To stop running from yourself, to stand still, to open your arms, to say, without hesitation, "Welcome home." When you finally start seeing yourself through the mirror of kindness, something old and stubborn inside you may still resist. Not because you are doing it wrong, but because guilt has a long memory. Guilt is the shadow that clings to even the smallest steps of healing. It whispers that you don't deserve forgiveness, that some things can never be washed clean. And if you don't know how to meet that guilt, it can quietly strangle your newfound self-love before it ever fully blooms. That's why the next step matters even more. You don't fight guilt by arguing with it. You don't overpower it with logic. You dissolve it. You breathe through it. You melt it from the inside out. And tonight, we learn exactly how. There is a kind of breathing that isn't about survival, but about liberation. Most people breathe only enough to stay alive, but not enough to heal. Their breaths are shallow, tight, trapped in the top of the chest like small, scared birds. And when guilt, shame, or regret show up, their breathing becomes even tighter, locking the pain deeper inside the body. Buddhism teaches that the breath is not just air, it is life itself, a bridge between the mind and the body, the past and the present. Every conscious breath is an invitation back to the truth that you are already free. But few people ever learn to accept that invitation. They stay locked in their stories of guilt, replaying old mistakes like broken records, punishing themselves for things that no longer exist, except in memory. The breath that forgives is different. It's not a thinking process. It's not about analyzing the guilt, explaining it, justifying it. It's about meeting the heaviness inside your chest with something softer, deeper, older than guilt itself. Your own living spirit. Guilt contracts, it closes, it suffocates. But the breath expands, it opens, it releases. When you meet guilt, not with more mental noise, but with quiet, steady breathing, something extraordinary starts to happen. The guilt doesn't disappear instantly. It begins to dissolve the way morning mist fades under the steady rising of the sun. No drama, no battle, just patient melting. When you sit quietly and breathe consciously, you are telling your nervous system, it is safe to let go now. You are telling the parts of yourself that still think punishment is the only way forward. You are forgiven, even if you don't believe it yet. You are offering your own body a chance to unwind the thousands of tiny knots tied by shame and regret. And you don't have to deserve it first. The breath makes no demands. It only offers. Deep breathing is like a silent act of mercy toward yourself. Each inhale is a quiet, I accept you. Each exhale is a soft, I release you. Inhale, acceptance. Exhale, forgiveness. Inhale, I am willing to stay. Exhale, I am willing to let the past leave. No rushing, no forcing. Just steady trust that your body knows how to heal if you stop standing in its way. Many people misunderstand forgiveness. They think it means pretending something didn't hurt, or letting someone else off the hook. But true forgiveness, especially toward yourself, is something far more profound. It's the recognition that carrying guilt forever does not undo the past. It only poisons the present. It is the wisdom of realizing that you can honor the lessons of your mistakes without chaining yourself to them for the rest of your life. There is a Buddhist practice called Tonglen, where you breathe in suffering and breathe out compassion. When applied inwardly, it becomes one of the most powerful medicines for guilt. You breathe in your own pain without running from it, without labeling it bad. And then you breathe out kindness, sending it first to yourself. It's not about erasing what happened, it's about transforming your relationship to it. Instead of guilt becoming a prison, it becomes a doorway into deeper understanding, into deeper tenderness toward your own fragile, beautiful humanity. When you breathe consciously, you stop recycling the same old stories in your mind. You step out of the spinning wheel of blame and punishment. You step into the living moment where guilt cannot survive. Guilt lives in memory. Healing lives in presence. The more you breathe fully into now, the less power guilt has over you. At first, guilt may scream louder. It may try to convince you that you are betraying something by letting it go, that you are abandoning your responsibility, that you are being naive. But these are the last cries of a ghost losing its grip. The more you breathe, the less you argue, the more you stay gentle and steady, the fainter those voices become. Until one day, they are just background noise, like a distant radio playing a song you no longer dance to. And here's the quiet truth most people never learn. Guilt is not a proof of goodness. Living in shame does not make you noble. It makes you disappear from your own life. It keeps you trapped in an endless courtroom where you are both the judge and the condemned, replaying a trial that should have ended long ago. Buddhism invites you to leave the courtroom, to put down the gavel, to step out into the sunlight of your own forgiveness, breathing fully for the first time. If you sit quietly and place a hand on your chest and take one long, slow breath all the way down to your belly, you will feel something ancient inside you stirring. That is life itself reminding you, you are not the worst thing you've ever done. You are not the harsh words you once said, the moments you regret, the versions of yourself you have outgrown. You are something far older, far wider, far softer. You are a being in the middle of becoming, and you deserve your own mercy. When you breathe with forgiveness, you are not saying the past didn't matter. You are saying the past no longer gets to own you. You are taking back your birthright to peace. You are making an offering to yourself, the offering of unconditional acceptance, here and now, breath by breath. And there is another secret hidden in this practice. The more you learn to forgive yourself, the easier it becomes to forgive others. Because forgiveness is not really about fairness. It is about freedom. It is about choosing not to carry the burning coal of resentment in your own hands, even when you believe someone else deserves punishment, especially when you believe that. Every moment you refuse to forgive, you are punishing yourself far more than anyone else. Deep breathing trains your body to remember what freedom feels like. The lightness, the openness, the absence of heaviness pressing down on your chest. It's not a theory, it's not an affirmation. It's a living experience. You will know it when you feel it, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Forgiving yourself through breathing is the act of saying, I trust that my worth was never destroyed by my worst mistakes. I trust that even if I stumbled, even if I hurt others or myself, even if I made choices I would undo in a heartbeat if I could, the essential goodness of my being was never erased. It was only buried. And now I am breathing it back into life. Some days the breathing will feel easy. Other days it will feel like moving through thick mud. Both are okay. Healing is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You may pass by the same old pains again and again, each time at a slightly higher level of understanding. Don't be discouraged. Don't judge yourself for feeling heavy. Breathe through it. Breathe anyway. Every breath is a small act of liberation, even if it doesn't feel heroic in the moment. Over time, you will notice something. You will notice that guilt no longer hijacks your days. That shame no longer controls your choices. That when the old voices of punishment rise up, you can meet them not with panic, but with breath, with patience, with kindness. And when that happens, you will know that you have not just learned a technique. You have changed the ground you walk on. You have changed the way you live inside your own skin. There is no life without mistakes. There is no love without loss. There is no growth without falling down. But there can be life after guilt. There can be love after regret. There can be a new beginning after every ending you thought would define you forever. Breathe that truth in now. Let it settle into the places inside you that are still tender, still uncertain, still afraid. And as you exhale, let it carry away some of the weight you were never meant to hold. One breath at a time. One moment at a time. Until forgiveness is no longer a concept you struggle to reach. It is the quiet river you live inside. It is the silent yes your heart says to itself every time you breathe. You are not here to suffer forever for the past. You are here to return to your own wholeness. You are here to reclaim the joy that guilt tried to steal. You are here to be free. And it all begins, and it all continues with one simple, revolutionary act. Breathing yourself back to life. When the breath finally starts to dissolve the chains of guilt, something even more delicate awakens. A space, a silence inside that is unfamiliar, maybe even frightening at first. Because once the noise quiets down, what's left is the raw truth of your emotions. And many people have spent their entire lives either running from them or trying to fix them. But healing does not demand that you fix what you feel. It asks that you witness it. This is the doorway most skip over without even realizing it, becoming the compassionate witness of your own inner life. And it will change everything. There is an ancient strength hidden in stillness, not the frozen stillness of fear, but the alive stillness of pure presence. Buddhism teaches that there is a kind of love far greater than praise or encouragement. It is the love of simply seeing, of bearing witness, of standing beside pain without trying to erase it, solve it, shame it, or rush it away. And for many, this is the first time in their entire lives that they will be seen this way, not by another person, but by themselves. Most people live trapped in a frantic cycle inside their own heads. Feel something uncomfortable, panic, criticize themselves for it, try to push it away, feel worse, repeat. It's like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. The harder they try to fix what they feel, the deeper they sink. But there is another way. When you step back and become the observer, you break the cycle without violence. You don't have to argue with your emotions. You don't have to beat them into submission. You just have to notice them, without commentary, without attack, without turning them into villains. The compassionate witness inside you is like a wise old tree watching a storm pass through its branches. The tree does not curse the rain. It does not snap its own limbs in frustration. It simply holds space. It bends when it needs to. It stands firm when it can. It lets the storm pass through without losing its own rootedness. And that is what your heart is learning to do. When sadness rises, you don't have to label it bad. You don't have to label yourself broken. You can simply say, sadness is here. When anger surges, you don't have to panic and bury it or explode and regret it. You can simply say, anger is passing through. When fear clutches at your chest, you don't have to shame yourself for being weak. You can simply say, fear is visiting now. Like a gentle host welcoming every guest, no matter how messy, no matter how loud. The miracle hidden inside this practice is that feelings lose their power to control you the moment you stop fighting them. They peak, they pass, they dissolve, without being forced. without being denied, without wrecking you. The energy you used to spend suppressing or dramatizing your emotions becomes available again, available for healing, for presence, for real living. But this witnessing has to come with compassion. It is not cold surveillance. It is not detached indifference. It is the warmth of saying to yourself, "You are allowed to feel this." It is the quiet voice inside that says, "You are not wrong for being human." And every time you offer yourself that kind of witnessing, you are building a new foundation of self-trust, one that doesn't collapse when life gets messy. Most people were taught to police their emotions instead of understanding them. Don't cry. Don't get angry. Don't be scared. As if feelings were failures, as if being affected by life was something shameful. But Buddhism teaches that being deeply affected is not a flaw. It is part of being awake. The awakened heart feels it all, the sorrow and the joy, the fear and the courage, the despair and the wonder. And it welcomes it all without trying to amputate half of the human experience. You are not here to become a robot who only feels what's convenient. You are here to become a vast, living space where all of life can flow through you without breaking you. Every emotion that arises inside you is like a traveler knocking on your door. You don't have to let them move in forever, but you do have to acknowledge their presence. Ignoring them or attacking them only makes them louder, more desperate for your attention. When you witness yourself compassionately, you also start to see the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is what happens when you refuse to let yourself feel the pain. Pain is the storm. Suffering is tying yourself to the tree in the middle of the storm and refusing to let go. Witnessing allows the pain to pass through you without becoming your identity. You feel the sadness, but you are not sadness. You feel the anger, but you are not anger. You feel the fear, but you are not fear. You are the witness, the space, the kindness holding it all. This shift from identification to observation is subtle but revolutionary. It means you can go through hard moments without being shattered by them. It means you can feel lost without believing you are lost. It means you can weep without believing you are weak. The storm passes, the tree remains. Compassionate witnessing also transforms the way you respond to yourself during setbacks. Instead of criticizing yourself for not being healed enough, wise enough, calm enough, you can simply notice your struggle and say, "This is hard," not as judgment, as truth. And by naming it with kindness instead of cruelty, you offer yourself the exact medicine you always needed, the permission to be exactly where you are without shame. There is no timeline for healing. There is no race. There is no prize for reaching some imaginary finish line. Healing happens in layers, in spirals, in slow awakenings that cannot be forced. And every time you stand beside yourself with compassion, you are speeding up the only kind of healing that matters, the healing that rebuilds your relationship with your own soul. The compassionate witness is also your shield against the voices of the world that still try to tell you that you are wrong for being sensitive, wrong for struggling, wrong for feeling too deeply. When you have built the muscle of gentle observation, you no longer need the world's permission to exist. You know inside yourself that your feelings are not obstacles. They are bridges. They are not weaknesses. They are doorways to understanding, to empathy, to wisdom. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about cultivating the witness inside you is that it ripples outward. The more compassion you offer your own emotions, the more compassion you have for others. You stop needing to control how other people feel. You stop needing them to be perfect so you can feel safe. You start holding space for them the way you learned to hold space for yourself. And in doing so, you become a source of peace in a world desperate for it. But none of that is possible until you do it for yourself first. Until you turn inward, sit quietly, and say to whatever rises, "I see you. You are allowed to be here. You are not alone." No fixing, no scolding, no rushing, just presence, just breath, just the steady, unwavering kindness of a heart that is learning to stay. When storms of emotion come, and they will, you will not always feel ready. You will not always feel brave, but you can always be willing. Willing to sit, willing to stay, willing to witness. And that willingness will carry you farther than any technique, any affirmation, any desperate search for a solution. Self-love is not built through perfection. It is built through presence, through the small, ordinary, brave act of staying with yourself exactly as you are. No edits, no apologies, no masks. Just the raw, living truth of being human, seen, honored, and loved by the only person who can never abandon you, yourself. Tonight, as you listen, you are already practicing. Every breath you take, every feeling you allow without judgment, every moment you stay with yourself when it would be easier to run away, you are weaving a new pattern into your life, a pattern of trust, a pattern of kindness, a pattern of deep, unshakable love. And this is how you become whole, not by chasing some future version of yourself, but by witnessing the version that stands here now, messy, beautiful, hurting, healing, and offering it the blessing it has been waiting for all along, your own unconditional presence. Once you learn how to witness yourself without rushing to fix what you feel, a new kind of silence starts to grow inside you. Not an empty silence, but a full one. A silence full of life, of breathing space, of unexpected tenderness. And if you listen closely, you'll hear an old, heavy belief still rattling quietly in the background. A belief that most people have carried for so long, they mistake it for the truth itself. The belief that love must be earned, that being alive is not enough, that worthiness has to be proven. This belief is the invisible cage around most hearts. Tonight, we are going to tear it down. There's a harsh story stitched into the fabric of modern life, repeated so often it sounds like common sense. Be good enough and you'll be loved. Achieve enough and you'll be valued. Perform enough and you'll be safe. Fail and you lose it all. It's a brutal contract, written in invisible ink, signed in childhood without ever agreeing to it. And unless you recognize it for the lie it is, you will spend your whole life sprinting on a treadmill that never stops, convinced that somewhere just ahead, if you run hard enough, love will finally be waiting. But it never is, because love was never meant to be earned. Love was meant to be remembered. Buddhism does not teach that you must earn your right to exist. It does not say you have to accumulate virtues like trophies to deserve your own tenderness. It points to something far simpler, far more radical. Your existence itself is enough. Your being, breathing, feeling, living is already a miracle. You were never meant to perform worthiness like a circus act. You were meant to awaken to it, like opening your eyes after a long sleep. The myth of deservingness teaches that mistakes make you unworthy, that weakness makes you undeserving, that failure makes you unlovable. But these are the illusions of a world obsessed with conditions. In truth, your worth has never fluctuated. It does not rise and fall with your successes or your failures. It is as steady as the sun behind the clouds, untouched by storms, untouched by seasons. Every time you tell yourself, "I'll love myself when I lose the weight, when I fix my temper, when I become more successful, when I stop making mistakes," you are placing love on a horizon that keeps moving farther away. And no matter how fast you run, you will never catch it, because the problem was never speed. It was direction. Love does not live in the future. It lives here, now, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this messy, miraculous moment. Dismantling the belief that you must earn love is not easy. It goes against everything you've been taught. It feels reckless at first, dangerous even, like you are giving up the only thing that kept you moving forward. But what you are giving up is not growth. You are giving up the whip you have been using to drive yourself. Growth still happens without cruelty. Evolution still happens without shame. In fact, it happens better, because when you stop relating to yourself as a project that needs fixing, you finally create the safety necessary for real transformation to unfold. Think of a child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, they cry. No one sane stands over them shouting, "You're worthless until you can run a marathon." No, they are loved fiercely in every stage, crawling, wobbling, falling, getting up again. Their worth is never questioned. It is obvious, visible in every clumsy, beautiful step. Somewhere along the way, you forgot you are still that child. You believed the lie that love depends on performance. Tonight, you start to unlearn it. The heart does not open through pressure. It opens through permission, the permission to exist without needing to justify every breath you take, the permission to matter even when you are ordinary, even when you are hurting, even when you are lost. Real self-love starts not when you achieve some ideal version of yourself, but when you drop the exhausting quest to become lovable and realize you always were. There will be a voice inside you that resists this, a voice that says, "But what about all the mistakes I made? What about the people I hurt? What about the things I still haven't fixed?" Listen closely. Recognizing your worth does not erase responsibility. It empowers it. When you love yourself without conditions, you are more capable of making amends where needed, more capable of changing harmful patterns. Not because you hate yourself into change, but because you love yourself enough to want better for yourself and for others. Conditional love creates fear-based change, temporary and brittle. Unconditional love creates true change, rooted in stability, compassion, and long-term vision. A tree grows stronger not by fearing collapse, but by sinking its roots deeper into the earth. You grow stronger not by fearing unworthiness, but by remembering the foundation that was always there beneath your fear. Buddhism speaks of Buddha nature, the idea that every being, no matter how lost or confused, carries an indestructible spark of wisdom and goodness within them. This spark is not earned. It is revealed. It is uncovered through practice, through kindness, through remembering. And the first step to uncovering your own Buddha nature is letting go of the belief that you need to earn what you already are. You were worthy before you spoke your first word, before you achieved anything, before you failed anything, before you understood anything. And you are worthy now, no matter how tangled your life feels. No mistake, no regret, no wound can erase that. Undoing the myth of deservingness also changes the way you relate to others. You stop measuring them by their achievements, their mistakes, their performances. You start seeing the sacredness underneath. You start offering the love you always needed, unconditional, steady, real, and in doing so, you free not only yourself, but everyone around you. It takes practice to live this way, to catch yourself when you start slipping back into the old mindset of earning love, to stop treating self-care, rest, joy, and kindness as rewards you have to win, and start treating them as rights you were born with. It takes practice to hear the voice that says, "You don't deserve this yet," and answer back, "I don't have to deserve it. I already am it." You will forget sometimes. You will fall back into the chase. That's okay. Every time you remember again, you are carving a new path through the dense forest of old conditioning. Every time you turn toward yourself with love without waiting for permission, you are planting seeds of freedom that will bloom for the rest of your life. You are not here to win love like a trophy. You are here to embody love like a river, flowing, generous, free. You are not here to perform your worth. You are here to live your truth. You are not here to chase approval like a starving animal. You are here to remember that you have always been enough, exactly as you are. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "I'll feel better about myself when..." Stop, breathe, look around. Let the ground under your feet remind you you are already standing on sacred earth. Let your own heartbeat remind you you are already part of something vast and precious beyond understanding. Let your own breath remind you you do not have to earn your place here. You never did. This is not permission to stagnate. This is permission to grow from love instead of from fear. To move toward your highest self, not because you are terrified of being unworthy, but because you are excited to express the fullness of who you already are. That is the only sustainable fuel for a life of true joy. The myth of deservingness is one of the deepest poisons inside the human spirit, and dismantling it will take time, patience, courage. But every step you take away from that old lie and toward the truth of your unconditional worth is a revolution. It is a rejection of everything that ever tried to convince you that you had to earn your right to breathe, to hope, to dream, to love. You are not a product to be polished until acceptable. You are not a mistake that needs constant correction. You are a living, breathing miracle still unfolding. You are the sky. The clouds passing through are just stories. Stories you can watch. Stories you can let go. Tonight, as you rest, let your whole being soak in this truth. Let it sink into your bones. You do not have to earn rest. You do not have to earn peace. You do not have to earn love. You are allowed to have it. You were allowed all along. And as you sleep, know this: there is nothing left to chase. There is only everything left to receive. Once you finally drop the exhausting chase to prove your worth, another, even deeper truth starts knocking quietly inside you. It asks a question few dare to answer honestly. If you are already enough, if you no longer have to earn love, can you also stop fighting your own body? Not just tolerate it, not just accept it as a necessary inconvenience, but love it, honor it, revere it. This next step is where real freedom begins, and it's where most turn back, afraid to face what they've been trained to hate about themselves. But you will not turn back. You are ready now to enter the temple. Your body is not a mistake. It never was. It is not a failed project that needs endless remodeling. It is not an embarrassment to hide. It is not a problem to solve. It is the living, breathing vessel that has carried you through everything. Every heartbreak, every victory, every sleepless night, every laugh that shook your ribs, every tear you thought would drown you. This body has been your silent, loyal companion since before you had words to thank it. And tonight, you are going to start remembering how sacred that really is. The world around you will try to convince you otherwise. It will scream that your body must meet impossible standards before it deserves admiration. It will flood you with images of manufactured perfection. It will profit from your self-loathing. But Buddhism teaches that true seeing, true wisdom, pierces through the illusion. True seeing recognizes that aging is not decay, that scars are not shame, that weight, wrinkles, marks, asymmetries, all the so-called flaws, they are not accidents. They are stories written into your skin by life itself. They are the living history of your becoming. To love your body as it is, you must first unlearn the brutal way you have been taught to look at it. You must put down the weapons of comparison, the poisons of judgment, the endless measuring and punishing. You must remember how a monk treats a temple, not by demanding it be shinier, newer, flashier, but by tending to it with quiet reverence, sweeping its floors, repairing its cracks, bowing in gratitude for the space it holds. Your body is not an enemy to conquer. It is not a project to perfect. It is a sacred space, a field of miracles that asks only for respect. Every cell is a universe. Every breath is a prayer. Every step is a small act of creation. Your heart beats without being asked. Your lungs expand without demanding reward. Your eyes take in the beauty of the world without needing applause. How dare anyone tell you that this temple is not already holy? Going beyond acceptance into reverence means changing the way you speak to yourself, not with empty flattery, but with truth. Instead of saying, "I guess I have to accept my flaws," you say, "This body is a sacred witness to 1,000 victories I once thought I wouldn't survive." Instead of saying, "I'll love myself when I look different," you say, "I love this body because it stayed, because it carried me through pain I thought would destroy me." You stop seeing your reflection as a problem to fix and start seeing it as a living altar to the life you have fought so hard to live. There is profound power in loving a body that the world has taught you to hate. It is an act of rebellion against a system that profits from your insecurity. It is a return to a wisdom older than any magazine cover or cruel advertisement. It is a remembering that the body is not a decoration. It is a carrier of spirit, a bridge between earth and sky, a home for consciousness to dance in, a miracle wearing skin. Buddhism reminds us again and again that form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Your body is not just flesh and bone, it is the dynamic expression of life itself. It is made of the same elements as the stars, the rivers, the mountains. When you criticize your body, you are not criticizing a thing. You are criticizing a miracle you have not yet fully understood. And here's a secret the beauty industry will never tell you. No one has ever hated themselves into feeling beautiful. No one has ever shamed their body into feeling free. True radiance is not a shape. It is not a number. It is not a wrinkle-free face or a sculpted silhouette. True radiance is the glow of someone who is no longer at war with themselves. It is the soft, magnetic peace of someone who has made a home inside their own skin. You do not need to wait until your body changes to offer it the love it has always deserved. Love it now, exactly as it is. Love it when it aches. Love it when it feels heavy. Love it when it feels strange. Love it when it surprises you with strength you didn't know you had. Love it even when you don't understand it, because it has loved you without question since the moment you were born. This does not mean abandoning care. It does not mean neglecting your health. It means shifting the reason you care. You eat nourishing food not to punish your body, but to honor it. You move not to force it into a shape, but to celebrate its capacity for movement. You rest not because you are weak, but because you are wise enough to listen to what the temple needs. There will be days when it feels hard, days when old voices creep back in, whispering criticisms, pointing out flaws. That's okay. You don't have to fight them with anger. You meet them with presence. You meet them with the quiet, steady voice inside you that says, "This body is sacred ground. I will not desecrate it with shame." You remember that every wrinkle is proof that you laughed and cried and lived, that every scar is proof that you healed, that every stretch mark is proof that you grew, that every pound gained or lost is proof that you adapted to survive. Your body is a living record of courage. When you bow to your body instead of cursing it, you step into a kind of power that cannot be taken away. You no longer need external validation to feel beautiful. You no longer need to shrink yourself to be acceptable. You no longer need to hide. You walk through the world with the quiet strength of someone who knows they are already enough, not because someone else said so, but because you have seen it with your own eyes. And in loving your body as it is, you also open the door to deeper compassion for others. You stop judging them by their appearances. You stop assuming their worth is tied to how they look. You start seeing their bodies, too, as sacred temples, carrying hidden histories you may never fully understand. And you treat them, and yourself, with the reverence all life deserves. The journey to loving your body is not linear. Some days you will feel radiant. Some days you will struggle. Both are part of the path. What matters is that you keep walking it. What matters is that you refuse to turn your own temple into a battlefield again. What matters is that you choose over and over to stand on the side of love. Tonight, as you breathe, let your body be enough. Let your heartbeat be enough. Let your breath be enough. Place your hands gently over your chest and thank this body for staying, for carrying you, for enduring every burden you placed on it without asking for anything in return. Whisper to it softly, I see you, I honor you, I love you. And know that every word is a thread weaving you back into wholeness. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to remember the sacredness you forgot. You are here to return to the temple you have always lived in. And you are here, finally, to bless it with the love it always deserved. When you finally stop punishing your body and start seeing it as sacred, you begin to notice something even deeper, something that has been shaping your life from the shadows all along. It is not the body alone that carries the wounds of shame and judgment. It is the voice inside, the quiet whisper that speaks to you when no one else is around, the voice that comments on every choice you make, every mistake you regret, every hope you dare to hold. That voice is not neutral. It is powerful. It plants seeds with every word. And those seeds grow into the forest you will one day have to walk through. Tonight, we start changing the landscape. The way you speak to yourself is not just a habit. It is an act of creation. Buddhism teaches that every word, every thought, every intention leaves a trace. It is karma, not as punishment, but as planting. Every time you call yourself worthless, you are planting weeds that will choke your future peace. Every time you call yourself weak, you are carving deep ruts that your life will unconsciously follow. And every time you speak to yourself with kindness, with patience, with encouragement, you are planting gardens that will feed your spirit long after today's struggles have been forgotten. Your inner words are not harmless background noise. They are the architects of your future. They are the sculptors of your mood, your courage, your hope. And yet, most people let their inner words run wild, fueled by old fears, old criticisms, old beliefs they never even chose for themselves. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to a friend. They whip themselves with sentences sharpened over years of invisible battles. And then they wonder why peace feels so far away. Tonight, you are going to start listening more carefully, not with judgment, not with panic, but with curiosity. What are you planting with your inner voice? What kind of forest are you building inside your mind? Is it a place where your spirit can rest, grow, and thrive? Or is it a thorny, tangled prison where you are your own jailer? Changing your self-talk is not about repeating shallow affirmations you don't believe. It's about seeing clearly. It's about noticing the hidden assumptions underneath your thoughts. It's about interrupting the autopilot of cruelty you have been taught to call normal. It's about choosing again and again to plant seeds that nourish instead of seeds that poison. When a harsh inner voice rises up, "You're such a failure. You're never going to change. You always mess things up." Don't try to argue with it at first. Just notice it. Witness it the way a monk watches a cloud pass across the sky. See how old it feels. See how heavy it sounds. Realize it is not the voice of truth. It is the echo of every wound you never deserved. Once you notice it, you can begin to change it, gently, persistently, like pulling weeds, not with rage, but with steady hands. You catch the harsh voice and you respond with something different, something kinder, something more true. You do not pretend the pain isn't there. You simply refuse to keep feeding it. Instead of, "I'm a failure," you say, "I'm learning, and that takes courage." Instead of, "I'll never change," you say, "I am changing, even when it feels slow." Instead of, "I always mess things up," you say, "I am doing my best, and that is enough for today." You are not lying to yourself. You are telling a deeper truth, a truth that leaves space for imperfection, for growth, for humanity, a truth that waters the seeds of self-respect and hope instead of pouring acid on them. Buddhism teaches that what you frequently think about, you become. Your mind is like a field. If you plant thorns, you will walk through thorns. If you plant flowers, you will walk through flowers. But the mind does not care what you plant. It will grow whatever seeds you choose. This is both the danger and the opportunity. Most people do not realize that every insult they repeat to themselves becomes a little heavier to carry, that every harsh word they breathe into their own chest becomes another thread in the net that keeps them trapped. Freedom is not found in external achievements. It is found in the invisible decision to start speaking differently inside your own head. And when you commit to this change, when you start planting different seeds, you won't see the results overnight. Just like a garden, the first signs of life are hidden underground. You keep speaking with patience even when it feels silly. You keep choosing kindness even when cruelty feels more familiar. You keep pulling out the old weeds even when you are tired. And one day, quietly, without fanfare, you notice something different. You catch yourself feeling calm where you used to feel panic. You hear your inner voice offering encouragement instead of criticism. You find yourself walking through the forest of your own mind without fear. This is not a small change. It is the foundation of everything. Your destiny is not written in stone. It is written in the words you speak to yourself when no one is listening. There will be days when the old voices are louder, days when your self-talk slips back into old patterns of fear and judgment. That's normal. It does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. It means the forest is still growing. It means you are still learning which seeds to nourish and which to starve. On those days, do not panic. Do not give up. Simply notice. Simply breathe. Simply return to the gentle discipline of choosing your words with care. Every word matters. Every thought matters. Every moment you catch yourself slipping and choose a kinder thought instead, you are changing the soil of your life. You are not here to be perfect at this. You are here to be patient. You are here to be persistent. You are here to become the loving gardener of your own mind, pulling weeds without anger, planting flowers without haste, trusting that the roots are growing even when you cannot see them yet. And here's a secret most people miss. The kinder you are to yourself, the stronger you become. Not weaker, stronger. Because when your inner voice becomes your ally instead of your enemy, you no longer waste precious energy fighting yourself. You have that energy available for healing, for growing, for dreaming bigger than you ever thought possible. The karma of inner words is not abstract. It is immediate. It is cumulative. It is powerful beyond measure. Every time you tell yourself, "I am doing my best," you are planting resilience. Every time you tell yourself, "It's okay to rest," you are planting sustainability. Every time you tell yourself, "I deserve love," you are planting the roots of unshakable peace. You are not stuck with the inner landscape you inherited. You are not doomed to live inside the echoes of other people's cruelty. You have the power to become the architect of a different future. Not by forcing yourself to think only positive thoughts, but by gently, steadily replacing the language of fear with the language of love. And as your inner words change, so will your life. Slowly at first, then with breathtaking speed. You will notice opportunities where you once saw only obstacles. You will feel courage where you once felt only hesitation. You will begin to trust that you are allowed to exist fully, even with your flaws, even with your fears, even with your unfinishedness. Because the forest inside you is always listening. And tonight, you are planting something new, something beautiful, something that will grow taller and stronger and wilder than you can even imagine yet. All because you chose, in 1,000 small invisible moments, to speak to yourself as if you were worthy, because you are. You always were. And now, finally, you are learning how to say it to yourself and believe it. As your inner voice becomes softer, stronger, and more rooted in kindness, something even deeper begins to surface. Old echoes, quiet regrets, moments when you abandoned yourself, when you stayed silent instead of speaking your truth, when you ignored your own needs to please others, when you looked away from your own pain to avoid discomfort. These moments do not disappear just because you start speaking kindly now. They wait. They linger. They ask for something you may not have known how to give before. An apology, not the dramatic kind filled with guilt and self-attack. A silent, sacred kind. A reconciliation between you and your own soul. Tonight, you will finally begin making peace with the parts of you that you left behind. There is a wound that grows every time you betray yourself. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It quietly hardens. It quietly builds walls. It quietly teaches you to stop trusting yourself. And self-trust, once broken, does not return with promises alone. It returns with action, with humility, with acknowledgement. Buddhism teaches that true healing is not about pretending the break never happened. It is about turning toward it, bowing before it, offering the apology that was always needed but never spoken. Silent apologies to yourself are not weakness. They are strength. They are the courageous act of taking responsibility without punishment, of recognizing where you abandoned your own truth, and instead of whipping yourself for it, kneeling beside that wound and whispering, "I'm sorry I left you. I'm here now." The moments you betrayed yourself were not because you were evil or broken or stupid. They were survival strategies. You stayed silent to avoid rejection. You hid your truth to feel safe. You abandoned your needs because somewhere deep inside you were taught that your needs didn't matter. This is not about blame. This is about understanding. And from understanding, real forgiveness can bloom. The silent apology practice is simple, but not easy. You sit quietly. You breathe. You remember a moment, any moment, when you felt that sharp little pain inside, the one that said, "This isn't right," and you ignored it anyway. Not to punish yourself, not to spiral into shame, but to honor the wound with presence. And when that memory rises, instead of analyzing it, instead of judging it, you place your hand over your heart, and you say internally, "I'm sorry. I see you now. You didn't deserve to be abandoned. I will not abandon you again." No drama. No self-attack. Just honesty. Just care. Some wounds will rise quickly. Some will resist being seen. Some will feel too raw, too tangled in old shame. That's okay. You do not have to force anything. Healing is not about digging. It's about creating the conditions where what needs to be healed feels safe enough to surface. And when it does, you stay. You do not run. You do not numb. You stay. You offer the silent apology without conditions, without buts, without trying to justify why you had to betray yourself. You simply acknowledge it. You let yourself feel the sadness of it. You let yourself breathe through the ache of it. And in doing so, you begin to reweave the fragile threads of trust inside your own heart. Self-betrayal leaves deep marks because it teaches you that you are not safe with yourself. It teaches you that even you cannot be trusted to protect your truth. And that loss of safety seeps into everything: your relationships, your choices, your dreams. Silent apologies begin the slow, beautiful work of stitching safety back together. You do not heal self-betrayal by punishing yourself harder. You heal it by returning to the place where you first abandoned yourself and choosing differently now. By standing with yourself when you once walked away. By listening where you once silenced. By believing yourself where you once doubted. And here's a truth most people never learn. The more silent apologies you offer yourself, the more naturally you will start acting differently. Not because you force it, but because you no longer want to abandon yourself again. You no longer want to feel that ache of self-abandonment. You choose differently because you love differently, because you trust differently. Silent apologies also free you from the endless cycle of seeking apologies from others. You realize that the deepest betrayal was never what someone else did to you. It was what you were taught to do to yourself in response. When you heal that, when you stand with yourself again, the power others had over your peace dissolves. They no longer hold the keys to your healing. You do. And when you practice silent apologies regularly, something even softer awakens. Compassion. You stop being so hard on your younger self. You stop judging the parts of you that made desperate, clumsy choices. You start seeing yourself not as a villain who ruined everything, but as a wounded traveler who did the best they could with the tools they had at the time. You start whispering to yourself not just, "I'm sorry," but also, "Thank you for surviving. Thank you for trying. Thank you for not giving up, even when you wanted to." And with every whisper, with every breath of forgiveness, the walls inside you start to soften. The hardness you thought was permanent begins to melt. The spaces you thought were too broken to heal begin to glow quietly from within. There is no right timeline for this. Some wounds will need many silent apologies before they start to loosen. Some will need just one honest moment of presence. Trust the process. Trust the wisdom of your own heart. Healing moves at the speed of trust, not at the speed of your impatience. And do not be surprised if along the way you grieve. Grieving is not failure. It is a sacred part of healing. You are mourning the times you did not know how to stand up for yourself. You are mourning the lost chances, the silenced truths, the years you spent chasing love outside yourself because you didn't know how to give it inside. Let the grief come. Let it wash through you. Every tear is another silent apology finding its way home. This practice also redefines what strength means. Strength is not never betraying yourself again. Strength is noticing faster when you do. Strength is choosing to return over and over, without shame, without harshness. Strength is saying, I may have left myself before, but today I choose differently. And over time, you will notice that the spaces where you once felt hollow and ashamed are now filled with quiet resilience. That the parts of you once wanted to hide are now places of tenderness, wisdom, and beauty. That self-betrayal no longer feels inevitable. It feels foreign. It feels impossible. Because you have become someone who stands with yourself, no matter what. There will still be temptations. Moments when it feels easier to silence your truth, to fit in, to shrink yourself, to avoid conflict. That's human. That's normal. But now you will recognize the cost. Now you will feel the tug of loyalty to yourself stronger than the pull of fear. Now you will choose, more often than not, to stay true. And when you don't, because you won't always, you will know how to return. Not with punishment, not with despair, but with a hand over your heart and a silent apology whispered into the tender spaces within you. I see you. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm here. This is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong relationship. It is a lifelong promise. And it is worth every ounce of effort, every uncomfortable breath, every tear, every trembling act of forgiveness. Because in the end, the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for every other relationship you will ever have. Heal that, and everything else begins to heal too. Tonight, as you rest, let the silent apologies rise. Let them flow without fear, without judgment, without rush. Let them be soft. Let them be real. Let them be enough. Because you were never waiting for someone else to save you. You were waiting for yourself. And now, finally, you are here. As you begin to offer yourself silent apologies and heal the fractures left by old betrayals, another tender reality comes into focus. You realize there are parts of your life that still ache. Chapters that were never neatly closed. Stories that did not end with the perfect resolution. Wounds that still throb quietly beneath the surface, even after years have passed. And you realize that no amount of fixing, forcing, or rushing has made them disappear, because they were never meant to be erased. They were meant to be loved as they are, unfinished, raw, imperfect, alive. Tonight, we enter one of the hardest and most sacred practices of all, sitting with the unfinished stories without trying to rewrite them, learning to love what is still healing instead of trying to make it disappear. There is a deep hunger in the human heart for closure, for neat endings, for perfect redemption arcs. It's the hunger that drives people to replay conversations 1,000 times in their minds, wishing they had said something different. It's the hunger that fuels sleepless nights filled with what-ifs and if-onlys. It's the hunger that whispers, you cannot be at peace until everything is resolved. But Buddhism teaches a different wisdom. It teaches that life itself is an unfinished story, that peace does not come from tying up every loose end. It comes from learning how to sit beside the mess with open arms and say, even this belongs. Not every pain will make sense. Not every heartbreak will be explained. Not every dream will come true. Not every relationship will be repaired. Not every wrong will be made right. And if you wait for those things before allowing yourself to feel whole, you will wait forever. Wholeness does not come from perfect outcomes. It comes from presence. It comes from the radical act of loving what is still wounded, what is still confused, what is still incomplete. Sitting with unfinished stories means resisting the urge to rush your healing just to feel comfortable again. It means letting grief unfold at its own pace. It means letting unanswered questions remain unanswered without torturing yourself for clarity. It means letting regret breathe without trying to strangle it into silence. It means sitting with the parts of you that are still bleeding and saying, "You don't have to be healed to be loved." This kind of sitting is not passive. It is active tenderness. It is choosing to stay present with your own discomfort instead of abandoning yourself again. It is choosing to witness your own sorrow without trying to silence it. It is choosing to treat your pain not as a flaw, but as a sacred testimony to your willingness to live fully, to feel deeply, to risk being broken in the pursuit of connection and meaning. The parts of your story that are unfinished are not failures. They are proof that you were brave enough to engage with life, even knowing there were no guarantees. They are proof that you dared to love, to hope, to trust, even when it didn't turn out the way you wanted. They are proof that your heart was never small or shallow. It was wide enough to risk breaking. Buddhism often speaks of the lotus that grows from the mud, but it rarely promises that the mud will disappear. The lotus rises, brilliant and whole, because of the mud, not despite it. Your unfinished stories are the mud. The messy, murky, painful places where your deepest beauty is born. To sit with them without trying to clean them up is to allow the lotus of your own spirit to bloom. There is a quiet dignity in refusing to rush your own becoming, a strength in saying, "I can love myself here, even if this story never resolves the way I hoped." A wisdom in knowing that some healing does not look like closure. It looks like continuing to live with an open heart even while carrying scars. You may find yourself tempted to minimize your unfinished stories, to tell yourself they don't matter, to bury them under distraction or denial. But the parts of you that still ache do not need to be erased. They need to be witnessed. They need to be honored. They need to be given a seat at the table of your life, not hidden in the attic of your mind. Sitting with unfinished stories also means recognizing that healing is not linear. Some days you will feel free, light, almost untouched by the old pain. Other days, the ache will flare up as if no time has passed at all. Neither state means you are failing. Healing moves in spirals, not straight lines. Every revisit is an opportunity to sit more deeply, to love more fully, to stay more bravely. And here's a truth the world rarely speaks. It is not the people who have closed every chapter perfectly who are the most alive. It is the people who have learned to carry their open wounds with grace. It is the people who have accepted that life is a series of beginnings, middles, and not always endings. It is the people who can sit in the mystery without needing to solve it. When you practice sitting with your unfinished stories, you stop needing to force yourself into artificial narratives of triumph. You stop needing to pretend that everything happens for a reason you can immediately understand. You stop needing to package your pain into something palatable for others. You allow your story to be as messy, as tender, as incomplete as it is, and you love it there. This practice also invites a profound humility. It reminds you that you are not the sole author of your life, that some stories remain open because they were never yours alone to close. That forgiveness sometimes happens silently, long after words are possible. That understanding sometimes blooms years after confusion first rooted itself. That love sometimes lingers even after goodbye. You are not weak because you have unfinished stories. You are human. You are courageous for choosing to stay connected to your own heart, even when it hurts. You are wise for recognizing that some questions will echo unanswered, and that your worth does not depend on silencing them. Tonight, as you breathe, let yourself sit with whatever is still aching. Let yourself hold the stories that do not have tidy endings. Let yourself love the parts of your life that feel unresolved. Whisper to them, not with impatience, but with tenderness. You are not a mistake. You are part of my sacred becoming. And trust, even if you cannot see it yet, that sitting with your unfinished stories is shaping you into someone softer, stronger, deeper than you could ever have become if everything had gone exactly as you once planned. You are not broken because your healing is incomplete. You are beautiful because you are willing to keep loving yourself through every unfinished chapter. You are the story still being written, and that is more than enough. When you finally learn to sit beside your own unfinished stories without trying to erase them, something inside you grows quieter, stronger, more unbreakable. You stop looking for neat endings. You stop waiting for permission to feel whole. You start trusting your own unfolding. But with this new clarity comes a hard, burning truth. You start seeing how much of the world you were born into was designed to make you hate yourself. You start noticing how often self-doubt, self-criticism, and endless comparison are sold as normal ways of living. And you realize something that changes everything. Loving yourself in a world that profits from your self-hatred is not weakness. It is rebellion. It is spiritual defiance. It is one of the most powerful acts you can ever commit. From the moment most people are old enough to understand words, they are fed messages that they are not enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not thin enough, not successful enough, not good enough. Every commercial, every magazine cover, every whisper of comparison carries the same poisonous seed. You are lacking. Fix yourself. Then maybe you'll be worthy. And the tragedy is that millions of people spend their whole lives trying to earn a love they were told they didn't deserve without perfection. They chase products, titles, approval, all trying to fill a hole that was never real in the first place. But Buddhism teaches a different way. It teaches that your original nature was never broken. It was only hidden, covered over by fear, shame, conditioning. Your task is not to become worthy. Your task is to remember that you always were. Self-compassion in a world built to keep you endlessly striving and ashamed is an act of silent rebellion. When you look at yourself, not your curated self, not your polished self, but your raw, messy, aching, real self, and say, "I love you exactly as you are," You are defying every system that profits from your insecurity. You are stepping out of the endless hunger for validation. You are refusing to let the world's sickness take root in your heart. And make no mistake, systems that thrive on comparison and inadequacy are not neutral. They are powerful. They are relentless. They will try to pull you back every single day. They will offer you 1,000 tiny bargains. Hate yourself just a little and you'll fit in. Starve your soul just a little and you'll be accepted. Shrink yourself just a little and you'll be loved. But self-compassion says no. Self-compassion says, I am no longer for sale. Choosing self-compassion is not choosing to be blind to your own flaws. It is choosing to see them through the eyes of love instead of judgment. It is choosing to believe that growth can come from kindness, not cruelty. That healing can happen through mercy, not punishment. That becoming whole is not about becoming flawless. It is about becoming deeply, fiercely loyal to your own sacred humanity. Every time you meet your own pain with gentleness instead of scorn, you are building a life that cannot be bought or broken by external forces. You are creating an inner ground that remains steady even when the world around you trembles. You are choosing to live rooted in truth rather than manipulated by fear. The world will tell you that self-compassion is selfish, that loving yourself as you are will make you lazy, weak, arrogant. But look closely. Who benefits from you believing that lie? Who profits when you hate yourself? Who wins when you live in constant shame? It is not you. It never was. Self-compassion is not about building walls around your heart. It is about dismantling the invisible walls inside you that told you love must be earned. It is about living open-hearted in a world that tries to harden you. It is about being brave enough to say, I will not abandon myself even if the whole world tells me I should. And here's something few people realize. The more you love yourself, the harder it becomes for others to manipulate you. You stop chasing approval from people who don't have your best interests at heart. You stop molding yourself into shapes that make others comfortable. You start living from a deep, steady place inside that knows its own worth without needing to prove it. Self-compassion also makes you more compassionate toward others, not less. When you stop seeing yourself as a competition, you stop seeing other people that way too. You stop needing them to fail so you can feel superior. You stop needing them to be perfect so you can feel safe. You start seeing their struggles with the same tenderness you have learned to offer yourself. And yet, self-compassion remains radical because it threatens the old structures. It threatens every story that says you must suffer to be worthy. It threatens every system that profits from your wounds staying open. It threatens every relationship that depends on you staying small and silent. To love yourself in a world that demands you constantly apologize for existing is to pick up the torch of spiritual revolution. It is to say, I will not spend my one precious life despising the body that carries me. I will not spend my one precious life starving the soul that is already enough. I will not spend my one precious life chasing a love I already carry inside me. And yes, it will be lonely sometimes. Choosing self-compassion means sometimes stepping away from the crowds that bond over mutual self-loathing. It means refusing to participate in conversations that tear people down, including yourself, It means learning to sit quietly in your own presence and find it good, even when others do not understand. But the loneliness fades, and what grows in its place is something extraordinary: freedom, a deep, quiet, unshakable freedom, the kind of freedom that cannot be granted by another person, by a paycheck, by a number on a scale, by a title, by a fleeting moment of external praise, the kind of freedom that says, "I belong here, I belong to myself." Choosing self-compassion does not mean you stop striving to grow. It means you stop striving from fear. You start growing from love. You start creating not to prove your worth, but to express it. You start dreaming not because you are inadequate, but because you are overflowing. And every time you choose compassion over cruelty, every time you choose mercy over judgment, every time you choose tenderness over punishment, you are not just changing your own life. You are quietly, invisibly changing the world. Because a person at peace with themselves is a powerful force. A person who loves themselves is a beacon. A person who refuses to live in shame becomes a living reminder that another way is possible. Self-compassion is not passive. It is not naive. It is fierce. It is disciplined. It is an act of everyday courage, and it demands everything you have been taught to fear: vulnerability, softness, imperfection, slowness, presence. But it gives back everything you have spent your life searching for: peace, belonging, dignity, joy. Tonight, as you breathe and rest, let yourself feel the weight of this truth. You are not failing by being kind to yourself. You are rising. You are not weak for refusing to hate yourself into improvement. You are wise. You are not selfish for refusing to shrink into someone else's idea of worthiness. You are free. The next time the old voices rise, the voices that say you are not enough, not yet, not ever, answer them not with rage, not with despair, but with a quiet, steady rebellion, self-compassion. Speak to yourself as you would speak to a beloved friend standing at the edge of battle. Speak with gentleness. Speak with courage. Speak with unwavering loyalty to your own sacred heart. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to shine. You are not here to be small. You are here to take up the full space of your own existence, unapologetically, fiercely, tenderly. And it all begins, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, with the radical, rebellious, revolutionary act of loving yourself exactly as you are. As you rise quietly through the rebellion of self-compassion, refusing to buy into a world that demands your self-hatred, another deeper truth starts to reveal itself. It is not enough to love yourself only when you are strong, radiant, successful. If self-love only blooms during your highest moments, it is not yet real. It is still conditional, still fragile, still chained to performance. The real work begins in the places no one claps for, in the simple, awkward, unremarkable hours of your life. Tonight, you step into the hardest and most beautiful practice of all, learning to find divinity in the ordinary. There is a kind of love that does not need fireworks to stay alive. It does not need achievements to stay loyal. It is the love that wakes up beside imperfection every day and chooses to stay. This is the love you are now called to offer yourself. Not the kind that swoons when you are impressive, the kind that stays steady when you are ordinary, when you are tired, when you are clumsy, when you are uninspired, when you are simply human. The world around you is obsessed with highlights. Social media is a parade of best moments. Advertisements are a worship of peak experiences. Everywhere you turn, you are told that meaning lives in the extremes, the big achievements, the grand adventures, the picture-perfect milestones. But Buddhism teaches something different. It whispers that the sacred is not hidden in the rare. It is alive in the daily. In the breath you barely notice. In the meal you eat without fanfare. In the laugh that slips out during a quiet conversation. In the way your heart keeps beating even when you are doing nothing extraordinary at all. If you can only love yourself when life feels exciting, you will spend most of your days disconnected from your own heart. Because most of life is not a highlight reel. It is a slow unfolding of tiny, ordinary moments. Brushing your teeth, folding laundry, sitting in traffic, washing dishes, listening to the rain against the window. These are not obstacles to real life. They are real life. And your capacity to love yourself inside them, to see your own worth, not despite their plainness, but inside it, is what determines whether your love is rooted or fleeting. Loving the ordinary means letting go of the addiction to drama. It means stepping off the stage where you perform your worth and stepping into the kitchen where you spill the coffee and burn the toast and still say, "This too is sacred." It means loving yourself not for what you produce, but for simply being, for breathing, for existing, for waking up and living another messy, beautiful day. There is holiness in the boring hours if you know how to look. There is holiness in the awkward pauses, in the repeated routines, in the small choices no one else sees. True self-love blooms when you can look at an unremarkable Tuesday afternoon and still say, "This matters. I matter, even now." The old conditioning will fight you on this. It will whisper that you are wasting your life if you are not constantly achieving. It will hiss that you are falling behind if you are not constantly improving. It will sneer that your worth is shrinking with every unnoticed, unimpressive day. But that voice is lying. The only thing shrinking is your connection to your own spirit every time you believe it. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment is not a grand event reserved for rare saints. It is the ability to see the true nature of reality exactly as it is, not as you wish it to be. It is the ability to find freedom, compassion, and beauty in the middle of dishes and diapers and deadlines. It is the ability to wake up fully inside your own life instead of sleepwalking through it while waiting for something better to begin. You do not become more worthy when life gets exciting. You do not become less worthy when life feels small. Your worth is constant, steady, unshaken by circumstances. Learning to love the ordinary is learning to live from that truth. It also means learning to forgive the awkwardness of being human, the moments when you say the wrong thing, the days when you forget what you meant to remember, the times when you spill, stumble, overreact, misunderstand. These are not failures to be ashamed of. They are signs that you are participating fully in the messy miracle of life. They are signs that you are showing up. Self-love deepens when you can laugh at yourself without cruelty, when you can embrace your own clumsiness without shrinking, when you can stay tender toward yourself even when you are tired, distracted, imperfect. Loving the ordinary is loving the parts of you that never make it into the highlight reel, and recognizing that they are just as sacred as your best moments. It also means dropping the fantasy that real life will begin later. After you reach your goals, after you fix your flaws, after you finally get it right. Real life is happening now, in this imperfect moment, in this imperfect body, in this imperfect mind. If you are always waiting for life to be extraordinary before you give yourself permission to love it, you will miss the only life you ever had. When you practice loving the ordinary, you start noticing how rich it really is. You start feeling the sunlight on your face differently. You start tasting your food more fully. You start hearing the sound of laughter, even your own, as something precious rather than background noise. You start recognizing that you are not a machine meant to optimize every moment. You are a living being meant to experience every moment. And when you fall short, because you will, when you get lost again in chasing the extraordinary, when you forget to notice the sacredness of a simple day, you do not need to scold yourself. You simply come back. You simply breathe. You simply whisper to yourself, "This is enough. I am enough, even now." The more you practice, the less desperate you feel to prove anything. The less you chase applause, the less you fear quiet. The more you feel at home inside your own life, not because it is perfect, but because you have learned to see it as holy. You become the kind of person who walks into a messy kitchen and smiles, who listens to a child's endless story and feels grateful, who watches the rain and feels rich, who folds laundry and feels blessed to have clothes, blessed to have hands that can fold, blessed to have breath moving in and out of a living, breathing body. And you realize something even deeper. Loving the ordinary is not settling. It is awakening. It is stepping fully into the vast, vivid miracle that was always here, hidden in plain sight. You are not wasting your life by living quietly. You are not falling behind by savoring small moments. You are not missing out by loving your simple, imperfect, daily existence. You are finding what most people spend their whole lives chasing. Tonight, as you breathe and drift into rest, let yourself relax into the ordinariness of this moment. No medals are being handed out. No judges are watching. Nothing needs to be achieved. You are enough. You are sacred. You are home. And when you wake, greet the day not as an obstacle to greatness, but as a sacred ground for loving yourself more deeply, more tenderly, more truly, right in the middle of all the ordinary, beautiful imperfection. As you begin to fall in love with the ordinary parts of life, you step into a deeper kind of peace that no achievement could ever give you. You stop needing to chase moments of validation. You stop waiting for life to look like a dream before you believe you are living it right. But something even more profound starts to stir under the surface when you reach this level of stillness. A quiet, unsettling question begins to rise. Who exactly is the you that you are loving? Is it the collection of achievements, mistakes, stories, labels, or is it something far wider, far freer? Tonight, we take one of the most radical steps of all. Tonight, we loosen the grip on the very idea of I and discover a self-love deeper than any identity could ever hold. Buddhism teaches that clinging tightly to a fixed sense of self, the idea that you are a permanent, separate, unchanging being, is the root of much suffering. It teaches that what you call I is not a solid object, but a process, a flowing river of sensations, thoughts, memories, emotions, constantly changing, constantly unfolding. You are not a frozen thing. You are an unfolding mystery. And when you stop trying to cling to a rigid image of yourself, when you allow your identity to soften, you find a love that is no longer fragile, no longer conditional, no longer brittle. Most people spend their entire lives defending an idea of themselves. They defend their stories, their opinions, their pride, their failures, their labels. They live terrified that if one piece of their identity is challenged, their whole being will collapse. But the truth is, your real being was never trapped inside a label. Your real being was never at risk. Only the image was. Only the story. Letting go of the tight grip on I does not mean you disappear. It means you become vast. It means you stop shrinking yourself down into tiny roles and frozen images. It means you allow yourself to change, to evolve, to flow without fear that you are losing yourself. It means you start loving the living, breathing, changing process that you are, instead of trying to control it into some fixed idea of perfection. There is a paradox at the heart of real self-love. The less you cling to a fixed idea of who I am, the more compassion naturally blooms. Because when you stop obsessing over your image, you create space to see yourself and others clearly, without the fog of ego, without the armor of pride, without the fear of losing face. You begin to love not a version of yourself that has to be protected at all costs, but the living reality of yourself, flawed, growing, mysterious, alive. You begin to love the being that exists beyond every title, every mistake, every success. You begin to love not the story, but the storyteller. And in loving yourself this way, you start to love others differently too. When you loosen your grip on your own identity, you loosen your grip on theirs. You stop needing other people to fit your stories about them. You stop needing them to behave in ways that protect your ego. You see them too as unfolding mysteries, not fixed characters, not enemies or idols, just living beings doing their best. The tightness around identity is often invisible until you start to let it go. You realize how much you have suffered trying to live up to who you thought you were supposed to be. You realize how often you have been trapped by your own need to maintain a certain image. The successful one, the strong one, the good one, the broken one, the victim, the hero. Whatever mask you were handed or built for yourself, it weighs heavily when you forget that it is only a mask. When you breathe into the truth that you are not a fixed thing, but a living process, you allow yourself to be free. Free to change, free to fail and rise again, free to hold contradictions, free to outgrow old stories, free to belong to the river of life instead of clinging to a rock and calling it me. And in that freedom, self-love stops being something you have to achieve. It becomes something you live inside. It becomes the natural outflow of living without constant self-attack, without constant defense, without constant fear that you will be erased if you let yourself evolve. You realize you can love yourself when you are kind and when you are impatient. You can love yourself when you are clear and when you are confused. You can love yourself when you are courageous and when you are terrified. Because none of these states define you. They are weather passing through the vast sky of your being. The sky does not reject the storm. It holds it. The sky does not cling to the sunshine. It holds that too. You are the sky. You are not the storm. You are not the sunshine. You are the vastness that holds it all. Letting go of the rigid I also releases the endless pressure to be consistent in a way that kills real growth. Life is not consistent. Healing is not linear. Awakening is not a straight line. When you allow yourself to be inconsistent, to be tender one day and tough the next, to be certain one moment and lost the next, you are not failing. You are living. You are breathing. You are becoming. And as you allow yourself to soften, you find that compassion rises more easily, not just for yourself, but for all beings. You realize that everyone is carrying a process, not a finished product. Everyone is more complex than the labels you once pinned to them. Everyone is more vulnerable, more mysterious, more sacred than the small boxes you tried to fit them into. Letting go of I is not erasing your individuality. It is embracing your reality. It is recognizing that your true self is not a thing you can define or protect. It is a living current, ever moving, ever renewing, impossible to pin down, and all the more beautiful because of it. Tonight, as you breathe into rest, let yourself loosen the grip. Loosen the grip on the story of who you think you have to be. Loosen the grip on the fear that you are not enough. Loosen the grip on the old images that no longer fit. Feel the freedom in being something vaster, something softer, something alive. You are not just the mistakes you made. You are not just the victories you won. You are not just the roles you played. You are not even just the body you inhabit. You are the spaciousness within which all these things rise and fall. You are the mystery that witnesses it all, and in that vastness there is nothing left to defend, nothing left to prove, nothing left to earn. There is only life, unfolding moment by moment, breath by breath, in 1,000 beautiful, imperfect ways. You are allowed to be a new person tomorrow. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to feel lost sometimes. You are allowed to laugh at how seriously you once took yourself. You are allowed to grow in ways you cannot yet imagine. Real self-love is not about building a perfect version of me and clinging to it. It is about living with such compassion, such spaciousness, that every version of yourself is welcome. The strong ones, the broken ones, the wise ones, the confused ones, all of them held, all of them honored, all of them loved, because you are not here to become a statue. You are here to become a river. You are here to move, to soften, to expand, to belong to something far bigger than the tiny cage of ego. And every time you loosen the grip on I, every time you breathe into the freedom of not knowing exactly who you are coming home to the deepest truth. You are already whole. You are already vast. You are already love itself. When you finally loosen your grip on the tight idea of I, and you begin to see yourself as something vast, alive, and endlessly unfolding, a new kind of tenderness opens up inside you. You realize you do not need to cling to old identities to be real. You do not need to be perfect to belong to yourself. But even in this new spaciousness, there are still storms. There are still days when the emotional weather turns violent, when anger, sadness, jealousy, fear rush in like a flood, threatening to drown the small, tender peace you have been building. It is here, in these raw moments, when you feel most unlovable, that the real test of self-love begins. Tonight, we walk into the heart of the emotional storm, not to fight it, not to flee from it, but to befriend it. Everyone has parts of themselves they would rather hide. The anger that lashes out before you can catch it. The sadness that drags you under when you least expect it. The jealousy that burns even when you know it makes no sense. The fear that clutches at your throat when you thought you had already grown past it. These moments feel like failures. They feel like proof that you are still broken. But they are not failures. They are invitations. Invitations to practice a love that does not flinch. A love that does not abandon. Most people are taught to love themselves only when they are calm, happy, gracious, when they are smiling, achieving, pleasing. But Buddhism teaches that true compassion is unconditional. It is not reserved for the moments when you are tidy and presentable. It is offered most fiercely when you are messy, raw, and raging inside. The heart that can stay open to itself during an emotional storm is a heart that has tasted real freedom. When a storm of emotion rises, the first instinct is often to panic, to shame yourself for feeling it, to stuff it down or explode outward, to distance yourself from it with judgment. But there is another way, the way of the compassionate witness you have already begun to cultivate, the way of the tender warrior who sits with the raging winds and does not flee. When anger rises, you do not have to become it. You do not have to push it away either. You can breathe with it. You can say quietly inside, "Anger is here. I will stay." When grief surges through your chest like a tidal wave, you do not have to drown. You do not have to suppress it. You can say, "Sadness is visiting. I will make space for it." When jealousy, envy, fear, loneliness grab hold of your heart, you can say, "This too is part of being human. I will not turn away." Befriending the emotional storm does not mean liking the feeling. It means recognizing that the feeling itself is not the enemy. It is the resistance to feeling that causes the deepest suffering. When you meet your own storms with presence instead of panic, they begin to lose their power to control you. They may still rise fiercely, they may still shake you, but they pass more quickly, they soften more easily, because they are no longer fighting against your own rejection. There is a secret most people never learn. Emotions are not permanent. No matter how big they feel, they are visitors, not residents. They rise, peak, and fall like waves. If you let them move through you without grabbing or pushing them away, they will complete their cycle. But if you panic, if you shame yourself, if you refuse to feel, you trap them inside where they fester and grow heavy. Loving yourself when you feel most unlovable means sitting quietly with your own storms and offering the one thing they have always needed but rarely received: acceptance. Not approval. Acceptance. Not saying, "It's good that I am angry," but saying, "It is human to feel this, and I am still worthy." Not saying, "It's great that I feel jealous," but saying, "It is understandable that my heart aches for what it thinks it lacks, and I am still good." You learn to breathe through the storm. You learn to put a hand over your heart and say, "You are allowed to feel this. I am not leaving you." You learn to become the safe place you always wished someone else would be for you, and in doing so, you begin to heal wounds far older than the current storm. Many emotional storms are echoes of old injuries, a forgotten wound from childhood, a buried grief from a past betrayal, a fear that was never met with comfort. When you stay present with the storm instead of fleeing, you allow these old wounds to finally surface and heal. You give yourself the gift of integration instead of fragmentation. And as you practice, you will notice something miraculous. The more you stay with yourself through the hardest moments, the more your fear of emotions begins to dissolve. You stop being so terrified of sadness. You stop being so threatened by anger. You stop being so ashamed of fear. You realize you can survive the storm without abandoning yourself. And this realization plants deep roots of self-trust that no external approval could ever match. Befriending the emotional storm also means learning to ride the waves without making big decisions while the water is churning. When emotions are high, clarity is low. You learn to give yourself permission to wait, to breathe, to feel, to let the first waves crash and pass before trying to respond, explain, or act. You learn to trust that wisdom often speaks only after the storm quiets. You also learn that no feeling is final. No single emotion defines you. Feeling anger does not mean you are an angry person. Feeling jealousy does not mean you are a bad person. Feeling sadness does not mean you are a broken person. You are not your emotions. You are the space that can hold them all without collapsing. This practice builds a resilience deeper than grit or willpower. It builds a resilience rooted in love, not force, in patience, not resistance, in tenderness, not judgment. It allows you to walk through the wildest inner weather without losing yourself. And it teaches you something even more powerful, that you are worthy of love, not because you are always calm, always cheerful, always wise, but because you are willing to stay with yourself through the storms, because you are willing to love what is hardest to love, because you are willing to meet your own heart not only when it shines, but when it trembles. Tonight, as you breathe and drift into rest, let yourself lay down the armor you thought you needed to earn love. Let yourself be raw. Let yourself be real. Let yourself be whole, even in the middle of whatever storms are still moving through you. You do not have to fix the storm tonight. You only have to stay. You only have to breathe. You only have to whisper to yourself again and again, even now, especially now, I am worthy of love. And know that every time you choose to stay with yourself through the flood, you are becoming someone unbreakable, not because you never feel pain, but because you never leave yourself behind again. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are beautiful because you dare to stay present with all of it. You are not failing because you struggle. You are living because you allow yourself to be fully here, fully human, fully awake, even inside the storm. When you learn to stay with yourself through the emotional storms, when you stop running from your sadness, your anger, your fear, a new kind of tenderness slowly begins to grow inside you. It is not loud. It does not announce itself with fireworks. It is quiet, almost shy at first. A tiny flicker of trust that says, maybe I don't have to abandon myself anymore. But trust is not built overnight. It is not built by grand declarations or dramatic promises. It is built slowly, patiently, through the small, invisible acts of kindness you offer yourself every day. Tonight, we begin the gentle, revolutionary work of learning the art of small mercies. Self-trust is not rebuilt through lectures. It is not restored by scolding yourself into submission. It is mended through tiny choices. The choice to speak to yourself with gentleness after a mistake instead of cruelty. The choice to take a real break when you are exhausted instead of pushing yourself harder out of shame. The choice to forgive yourself for forgetting, for stumbling, for being imperfect. Every small mercy you give yourself plants a seed, and over time, those seeds grow into an unshakable forest inside you. Most people are taught to believe that trust must be earned through extraordinary feats, through never failing, through never needing, through never making mistakes. But Buddhism teaches that the deepest trust is built not in the extraordinary moments, but in the ordinary ones, in how you treat yourself when no one is watching, in how you speak to yourself when you are tired, when you are scared, when you fall short. Small mercies are not grand gestures. They are the simple acts that say, I choose to stay with myself even here. They are the moments when you notice you are slipping into harsh self-talk and you pause, take a breath and choose a kinder word. They are the moments when you feel the temptation to punish yourself for being tired, but instead you close your eyes for 5 minutes and let yourself rest without apology. They are the moments when you catch the old instinct to scold yourself for every tiny imperfection, and instead you smile softly and whisper, "It's okay, you're still learning." The mind often wants dramatic change. It wants to fix everything at once. It wants to feel healed immediately. But real healing moves slower. It moves at the pace of trust. It moves at the pace of small mercies, repeated over and over until they become the new foundation of your life. Every time you offer yourself a small mercy, you send a message to the deepest parts of your being. You say, "You are worth kindness, even now." You say, "You do not have to be perfect to deserve care." You say, "I am not leaving you, even when you struggle." And over time, those messages sink in. They replace the old scripts of abandonment, of shame, of cruelty. They build a home inside you where you can finally rest. Small mercies also teach you patience. They teach you that growth does not always look like victory. Sometimes growth looks like catching yourself halfway through an old pattern and choosing a softer path. Sometimes it looks like forgiving yourself after the fact. Sometimes it looks like simply noticing the urge to attack yourself and choosing, even for a breath, not to. These tiny acts of kindness are powerful precisely because they are small, because they happen in the hidden moments, because they accumulate quietly, invisibly, until one day you realize you are standing on solid ground you built with your own hands. And the beautiful thing about small mercies is that they do not require you to feel ready. You do not have to wait until you believe you are worthy. You do not have to wait until you feel confident. You can start now, exactly as you are, simply by offering yourself the same patience and care you would offer to someone you love. You forgive yourself for missing a deadline. You thank yourself for trying even when you are scared. You soothe yourself after a hard conversation. You let yourself laugh at your own awkwardness instead of cringing in shame. You hold your own hand quietly, invisibly, every day, until the hand you are holding no longer feels so lost. Buddhism often speaks of compassion, not as a feeling, but as a practice. Not something you feel when it is convenient, but something you choose even when it is hard. Small mercies are this practice made real. They are the living proof that you can be your own source of healing. They are the quiet rebellion against every voice that ever told you that you had to be perfect to be loved. And as you practice, you will notice something incredible. The way you treat yourself in the small moments will start to reshape your entire life. You will find yourself less reactive with others. You will find yourself more patient with their imperfections. You will find yourself less desperate for external validation. You will find yourself more anchored, more rooted, more able to stand tall, even when the winds of life blow hard. Because trust built on small mercies is not fragile. It is not built on the shifting sands of success or failure. It is built on the steady, quiet rhythm of choosing kindness again and again, even when no one else sees, even when no one else understands. Small mercies also teach you how to handle setbacks differently. When you inevitably fall back into old patterns, because you will, you do not spiral into shame. You notice, you breathe, you offer yourself a soft word, you begin again. No drama, no despair, just the next small mercy, just the next gentle step. This way of living is not flashy. It will not always be celebrated by a world obsessed with big victories, but it will be real. It will be sustainable. It will be yours. Tonight, as you breathe and drift into rest, think of one small mercy you can offer yourself tomorrow. One tiny act of kindness. One gentle choice. One moment of patience where once you would have rushed to judgment. Plant that seed. Water it with your breath. Trust that it will grow. You do not have to fix everything overnight. You do not have to become perfect to be worthy. You only have to begin. You only have to be willing to offer yourself the smallest kindness and trust that over time, those small mercies will build a life of great, unshakable love. You are not too broken to heal. You are not too late to start. You are not too far gone to return. You are always only one small mercy away from beginning again. As you begin to rebuild trust through small mercies, as you offer yourself steady kindness even in the invisible corners of your days, you start to feel something new rising quietly inside you. A subtle shift, a readiness not to just survive yourself, but to nourish yourself. A readiness to not only sit in patience, but to move with love. But here, a deeper question appears, one that has tangled many hearts for a long time. How do you move forward? How do you grow without falling back into the old cycle of self-punishment? How do you choose effort without turning it into violence against your own soul? Tonight, you will find the answer, hidden where few people ever think to look. Effort as devotion, not as force. There is a way of moving through life that feels like dragging chains behind you. Every step is heavy. Every task feels like punishment. Every improvement feels like a desperate attempt to outrun your own unworthiness. This is the way most people are taught to live. Work harder, try harder, fix yourself harder. as if life itself were a courtroom and you are always on trial. But Buddhism teaches something different. It teaches the middle way, the path that avoids the extremes of laziness and self-cruelty, the path that honors effort, not as a sentence handed down by some invisible judge, but as a sacred offering. Effort, when rooted in love, is not punishment. It is prayer. It is devotion. It is an act of tenderness toward your own spirit. When you brush your teeth with care, when you nourish your body with food that makes you feel alive, when you stretch your body even when you are tired, when you step outside for fresh air even when the bed is calling you back, these are not acts of self-control for the sake of control. They are small daily rituals of devotion. They say, "I am worth the effort. My life is worth tending." Working for your own happiness without force means shifting the reason you act. You do not move because you hate yourself. You move because you love yourself enough to want better. You do not change because you are ashamed of who you are. You change because you are honoring the sacredness already inside you. And this shift changes everything. When effort is rooted in punishment, it burns you out. It drains your soul. It turns every task into a battlefield. It turns every mistake into a reason to lash yourself. But when effort is rooted in love, it nourishes you. It fills your heart. It turns even the simplest acts into songs of care. You learn to ask a different question. Not, how can I fix myself? But, how can I care for myself more deeply? Not, how can I force myself to be better? But, how can I honor the life blooming inside me? Effort rooted in love is not frantic. It is steady. It is patient. It trusts that growth will come if you keep planting, watering, tending, not because you are chasing worthiness, but because you are tending a garden that was already precious the moment you were born. And this kind of effort creates a different relationship with discipline. Discipline is no longer a weapon you use against yourself. It becomes a form of loyalty to your own joy, a way of clearing space for the life you want to live, a way of honoring the dreams that live inside you, not because you need them to prove your value, but because they are beautiful in their own right. You also stop measuring your worth by how productive you are. You realize that sometimes the most loving effort is resting when you need to rest. Sometimes it is saying no when your old patterns would have said yes. Sometimes it is choosing slowness when the world demands speed. You realize that effort is not just what you do externally. It is the internal choice to move through life with kindness instead of cruelty. Effort without force also teaches you how to stay steady during hard seasons. When motivation disappears, when energy wanes, when everything feels heavy, you no longer need to panic. You no longer need to whip yourself back into shape. You trust that devotion moves even when excitement fades. You trust that the roots you are planting will hold you steady even when the storms come. And you allow yourself to celebrate the small victories, not with arrogance, not with pressure, but with quiet gratitude. You celebrate getting out of bed on hard mornings. You celebrate taking one step when you felt like giving up. You celebrate choosing one kind thought when the old cruelty tried to rise. These celebrations are not vanity. They are the natural joy that blooms when you live in alignment with love. Buddhism speaks of right effort, not too much, not too little. Right effort flows from compassion, not fear. It flows from joy, not desperation. It flows from a deep understanding that you are not racing towards some future where you will finally be enough. You are already enough. Your effort now is simply a way of honoring the sacredness that has been there all along. And when you forget, because you will, when you slip back into old patterns of force and shame, you meet yourself not with more punishment, but with the same steady love you have been practicing. You breathe. You notice. You return. No drama. No despair. Just the next small, loving step. You are not here to force yourself into becoming someone else. You are here to become more fully yourself. You are here to nurture the seeds of wisdom, joy, and compassion already planted in the soil of your being. Effort rooted in love teaches you to move not because you are empty and need to be filled, but because you are full and ready to overflow. It teaches you to trust that taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is sacred. It teaches you to see every healthy choice, every kind action, every patient breath as a prayer offered to the sacred life inside you. Tonight, as you breathe and rest, let yourself feel the difference between effort that punishes and effort that nourishes. Let yourself choose again and again to move from love. Let yourself trust that the life you are tending with such patience and care is already a holy thing. You are not lazy for needing rest. You are not selfish for needing care. You are not failing because growth takes time. You are simply alive. You are simply human. You are simply learning the art of living as an act of devotion instead of a desperate race. And every step you take in love, no matter how small, no matter how slow, is a step that matters. You are building something beautiful right here, right now, not through force, but through the steady, sacred work of love. When you finally understand that effort can be an act of love instead of force, when you move through life with kindness rather than cruelty, another deeper truth slowly rises from the silence. You begin to question why you ever believed you needed fixing at all. You start seeing that most of your suffering was never about actual brokenness, but about carrying a story that said you were broken. Tonight, you step into one of the greatest awakenings of self-love, realizing there is nothing wrong with you that needs to be fixed, only a living mystery to be honored. From the beginning, you were taught to treat yourself like a problem. Improve this, hide that, correct this flaw, fix that weakness. Every mistake was held up as proof that something was wrong with you. Every failure was treated like evidence that you were lacking. But Buddhism whispers a different truth through every leaf, every breath, every passing cloud. Nothing in nature apologizes for existing. Nothing in nature demands to be corrected before it can belong, and neither do you. You were never meant to be a project. You were never meant to be a checklist. You were meant to be a living, breathing, unfolding being, full of contradictions, full of surprises, full of mysteries that even you are not meant to fully solve. Self-love matures when you stop trying to fix yourself and start marveling at yourself. When you stop treating your sadness, your anger, your quirks, your desires, your fears as flaws to be eradicated, and start seeing them as parts of a rich, complex tapestry that tells the story of a real, breathing human life. You are not a machine that needs constant upgrading. You are a mystery that is still unfolding, moment by moment, breath by breath. You are not incomplete. You are in motion. You are not defective. You are alive. This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of looking at yourself with the cold eyes of a critic, you start looking with the warm eyes of a poet. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" you start asking, "What is blooming in me now?" Instead of demanding perfection, you start bowing to the beautiful complexity of your own being. And complexity is not failure. It is richness. It is depth. It is what makes you more than a hollow shell. It is what makes you capable of compassion, of joy, of sorrow, of awe. The desire to fix yourself often comes from fear. Fear that you will be unloved if you are not perfect. Fear that you will be abandoned if you show your whole self. Fear that you are somehow too much or not enough. But the truth is, the parts of you that feel messy, complicated, even chaotic, they are not barriers to love. They are bridges. They are the ways life itself expresses through you in all its imperfect beauty. When you stop trying to fix what isn't broken, you also free yourself from the endless cycle of self-improvement addiction. The cycle that says, just one more course, one more diet, one more achievement, and then I'll finally be worthy. You realize you can still grow, still evolve, still reach for dreams, but not because you are lacking, because you are full, because growth is a natural, joyful part of being alive, not a desperate scramble to earn your own existence. Marveling at your own mystery means learning to sit with yourself without demanding that you make sense all the time. It means allowing yourself to be confused sometimes, to be in between, to be messy, to be unfinished. It means allowing questions to live inside you without rushing to find answers. It also means honoring your contradictions. You can be strong and vulnerable. You can be wise and still learning. You can be confident and uncertain, joyful and grieving, loving and scared, sometimes all in the same hour. These contradictions do not mean you are broken. They mean you are human. They mean you are alive at the intersection of countless forces, histories, dreams, and unknowns. Buddhism teaches that clinging to fixed ideas about ourselves creates suffering. When you demand that you always be the strong one, the good one, the healed one, you set yourself up to fall into shame the moment you feel weak, messy, or confused. But when you allow yourself to be a living mystery, you create space for all of it. You create space to be real instead of perfect. And you start to notice something profound. The parts of you you thought made you unworthy are often the very parts that make you whole. Your tenderness, your sensitivity, your questions, your doubts, your passions, even your mistakes, especially your mistakes, carry seeds of wisdom you could never have found by staying safe and polished. When you treat yourself as a living mystery instead of a broken project, you also start to treat others differently. You stop trying to fix them. You stop expecting them to fit neatly into your ideas. You give them the same spaciousness you are learning to give yourself. And relationships become deeper, softer, more alive. This way of living requires humility. It requires admitting that you will never fully figure yourself out. You will never master life. You will never reach a final, frozen state of having it all together. And that is not a tragedy. It is a relief. It is an invitation to keep showing up with curiosity instead of shame. Every day, you are a new version of yourself. Every breath you take is an entrance into a slightly different world. There is no finish line. There is only this unfolding, this living dance of becoming and unbecoming and becoming again. Tonight, as you breathe and rest, let yourself feel the freedom in not having to fix yourself. Let yourself relax into the sacred truth that you were never broken. Let yourself marvel at your own breath, your own heartbeat, your own being. Not because you have perfected yourself, but because you are here, you are alive, you are a mystery worthy of reverence. You are not a puzzle to be solved. You are not a mess to be cleaned up. You are not a mistake to be corrected. You are a living, breathing wonder. You are a moving river of life. You are an unfolding story too vast for any single label to contain. And the more you love yourself as you are, complex, unfinished, beautifully alive, the more you become exactly what you were always meant to be. Not perfect, not fixed, but gloriously whole. When you stop seeing yourself as a project to fix and start honoring yourself as a living mystery, something changes in the air around you. You stop fighting the tides within. You stop apologizing for the fact that you are still unfolding. But even with this deep inner shift, the world outside often remains harsh. People will still misunderstand you. Systems will still try to define you. Life will still throw its storms across your path. In these moments, self-love is no longer just a feeling. It becomes a necessity. It becomes the building of something unshakable inside you. Tonight, you begin one of the most powerful and lasting practices, becoming your own refuge. There comes a time when waiting for the world to be safe is no longer an option. Waiting for perfect acceptance from others, waiting for unconditional love from systems that were never built for your wholeness. All of it is a waiting game that ends only in heartbreak. Buddhism teaches that the ultimate refuge is not found outside. It is found within. It is the quiet, unbreakable sanctuary you build inside your own heart, where no storm can reach, where no rejection can evict you, where no external chaos can destroy your belonging. Building this refuge does not happen by accident. It happens through choice, through practice, through 1,000 small acts of loyalty to yourself when everything outside tells you to run, to shrink, to betray your own spirit. The first step is recognizing that you are worthy of being a place of safety for yourself, that your heart, no matter how battered, no matter how tired, is sacred ground, that you are allowed to build a home within yourself where you are always enough, always welcome, always seen. This home is not built through force. It is built through tenderness. It is built every time you meet your own fear with patience instead of judgment. Every time you soothe your own sadness without demanding it leave. Every time you hold space for your own anger without turning it into self-hatred. Every time you whisper to yourself, "I will not abandon you, no matter what." Becoming your own refuge means creating an inner environment that mirrors the love you always longed for. It means speaking to yourself with the kindness you once begged to hear. It means offering yourself the protection, the warmth, the unwavering loyalty that you used to search for in the faces of others. And it means making this refuge unconditional, not a prize you earn when you are behaving well, not a shelter you grant yourself only when you feel successful, kind, wise, but a home that welcomes you in your rage, in your grief, in your clumsiness, in your confusion. A home that never locks you out, no matter how dark the night inside you becomes. This inner sanctuary becomes your anchor when the storms rage outside, when the world is unkind, when people misunderstand you, when rejection stings, when plans fall apart. You do not crumble, because your belonging is not anchored to shifting sands. It is rooted inside you, steady and sure. Building this refuge also means learning to recognize when you have stepped outside of it, when you have wandered into old patterns of self-attack, of self-abandonment, of shrinking yourself to fit someone else's idea of who you should be. And without judgment, without despair, you gently guide yourself back home. This is the work of a lifetime. It is not done in a day, a month, a year. It is done moment by moment, choice by choice, and the more you practice, the easier it becomes. The faster you recognize when you are leaving yourself, the quicker you return. Becoming your own refuge also teaches you to differentiate between what is yours to carry and what is not. When the world projects its cruelty, its confusion, its fear onto you, you learn not to swallow it whole. You learn to ask, "Is this mine?" You learn to leave behind the stones that were never yours to bear. You learn to refuse to turn other people's wounds into your self-definition. And when the world grows loud and sharp, when the storms feel endless, you do not need to armor yourself with hardness. You can stay soft. You can stay open, because you are protected from within. Your safety does not depend on shutting down your heart. It depends on knowing you have a home inside it. This way of living also transforms your relationship with failure, with loss, with uncertainty. You realize that you do not need to succeed in every endeavor to be safe. You do not need to be liked by everyone to be whole. You do not need to have all the answers to be at peace, because your sanctuary is not built on outcomes. It is built on presence, on loyalty, on love. Every time you sit quietly with your own messy emotions without trying to exile them, you reinforce the walls of this inner home. Every time you catch the old voice of shame and answer it with gentleness instead of violence, you lay another stone in the foundation. Every time you choose to trust yourself, even when the world says you shouldn't, you light another candle inside your refuge. And you realize, over time, that no matter what happens outside, no matter how hard the winds blow, you can always return here. You can always come back to the steady ground of your own heart. This inner refuge is not isolation. It is not cutting yourself off from the world. It is the opposite. It is what allows you to stay connected without losing yourself. It is what allows you to love others without collapsing into them. It is what allows you to show up fully, knowing that no matter how you are received, you are already home. Tonight, as you breathe and rest, let yourself feel the walls of this sanctuary rising quietly around you, not walls that imprison, walls that protect, walls built not of anger or fear, but of steady love. Walls that say, "I belong to myself. I am safe here. I am enough." You are not alone. You are not homeless inside yourself. You are not broken beyond repair. You are building a home within your own heart. You are tending a fire that no storm can extinguish. You are creating a place where your spirit can rest, grow, and shine. And every moment you choose to return to this refuge, no matter how many times you forget, you are strengthening it. You are weaving the unbreakable net of your own belonging. The world will still be harsh sometimes, but you will not be at its mercy, because you have found the one place it cannot reach, the sacred, steady, ever-welcoming refuge within yourself. And here, finally, you are free. When you finally create an inner refuge that no storm can destroy, when you no longer depend on the outside world for your sense of safety, a deeper wisdom begins to stir within you. You realize that your choices, your words, your thoughts, even the way you treat yourself in private, are not isolated moments. They ripple outward. They build something much bigger than just this life, bigger than just this body. Tonight, you open the door to a secret few truly understand. Every act of gentleness toward yourself is not just healing you now, it is shaping your future in ways too vast to see. Buddhism teaches that karma is not punishment, it is momentum. It is the invisible current created by every thought, every word, every action. It is not some outside force deciding your fate. It is the natural unfolding of the seeds you plant every day. And when you choose softness instead of harshness toward yourself, when you choose patience instead of shame, when you choose mercy instead of cruelty, you are planting seeds that will blossom not just in this lifetime, but beyond it. Every moment of gentleness you offer yourself now is a gift to the being you will become. Every kind word whispered into your own heart becomes a wind at your back in lives you cannot yet imagine. Every time you forgive yourself instead of attacking yourself, you lighten the load for all the future versions of you still to come. This is not just poetry. It is the living law of compassion in motion. When you soften toward yourself, you interrupt cycles of violence that have been passed down through generations. You break chains you may never have seen but have always felt. You create a new path where cruelty is not the default, where tenderness is the air you breathe. And the most powerful thing is, this transformation does not depend on perfection. It does not require you to never feel anger, never make mistakes, never stumble. It asks only this, that when you stumble, you choose to reach for gentleness, that when you fall, you choose to meet yourself with a hand extended in kindness, not a fist of judgment. Every time you make that choice, even if your voice is shaking, even if your hands are trembling, you are building something sacred. You are teaching your own soul a different way to exist, a way where fear is not the master, a way where shame is not the currency, a way where love, steady and quiet, carries you forward. And this choice, repeated over and over, begins to carve new grooves in your heart, new pathways in your mind, new patterns in your soul, pathways that make it easier in the future to choose love again, to choose patience again, to choose compassion again. Softness is not weakness. Softness is strength that does not need to scream to be real. Softness is the power to stay open in a world that begs you to harden. Softness is the courage to believe that kindness can outlast cruelty, that love can survive even the fiercest winters. When you practice gentleness with yourself, you are not just surviving your pain, you are transforming it. You are taking the raw material of your suffering and turning it into wisdom, into tenderness, into a living bridge for all those who come after you. And yes, even on the days when you forget, when you fall back into old harshness, when you speak sharply to yourself, when you close the door of your heart in fear, even then, the choice to notice, to breathe, to soften again, continues the work. There is no failure that can undo the seeds you are planting. There is only the next breath, the next small mercy, the next return to love. Buddhism teaches that future lives are shaped not by some distant judge tallying your deeds, but by the habits of heart and mind you nurture now. The being you will become will inherit the fields you are planting today, and when you plant fields of gentleness, you are sending a blessing into the future, a blessing so wide it touches lives you will never see, hearts you will never know. The karma of gentleness also shapes the present in ways too subtle for the eyes, but too powerful for the heart to miss. You begin to walk differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to listen differently. The people around you feel it, even if they cannot name it. They feel the softness in your presence. They feel the safety in your gaze. They feel the quiet invitation to put down their own armor, to breathe deeper, to trust a little more. And slowly, the world around you begins to change. Not because you forced it, not because you shouted it into submission, but because you became a living example of a different way. A way of being where compassion is stronger than fear, a way of moving through life that heals rather than harms. Gentleness also ripples inward, softening the rigid places inside you that once felt unchangeable. Old wounds begin to breathe. Old defenses begin to crumble. Old stories begin to loosen their grip. You find yourself able to stay with pain longer without shutting down. You find yourself able to sit with joy longer without feeling guilty. You find yourself able to be with yourself exactly as you are without needing to escape. And this is how lifetimes change, not through grand declarations, not through desperate striving, but through the quiet, steady rhythm of meeting yourself again and again with open hands, open arms, open heart. Tonight, as you breathe and drift into rest, let yourself feel the weight and the wonder of what you are doing. You are not just healing your own life. You are healing generations. You are healing futures. You are weaving a fabric of compassion that will outlast every storm, every sorrow, every ending. You are planting forests of kindness that will shelter beings you have never met. You are lighting lanterns of mercy that will guide hearts you will never know. You are building bridges of love that will carry souls across oceans of fear and loneliness. And you are doing it not by being perfect, but by being willing, by being present, by being tender in moments when harshness would be easier. This is the karma of gentleness. This is the legacy you are creating, breath by breath, choice by choice, mercy by mercy. You are stronger than you know. You are softer than you fear. You are shaping futures with every quiet act of love you offer yourself. And even when you cannot see it, even when you doubt it, even when the world outside seems unchanged, trust that nothing is wasted. Trust that every moment of gentleness echoes further than you can imagine. Because love, once set in motion, never dies. It moves through time like light through the darkness, lighting paths, healing hearts, weaving a future where kindness is the strongest force of all. And it all begins, here, now, in this breath, with you. As you begin to plant gentleness into the soil of your life, As you water the future with patience and kindness, something even deeper starts to rise within you. A quiet knowing, too strong to ignore, starts to whisper beneath all the noise of fear and shame and doubt. A remembering, a return, a recognition that underneath every storm you have ever weathered, underneath every mistake, every heartbreak, every scar, there has always been something unbroken, something luminous, something holy waiting to be seen. Tonight, you begin the journey of trusting the inner bodhisattva already living inside you. The bodhisattva is not some distant saint or unreachable ideal. In Buddhist teachings, the bodhisattva is the part of every being that longs to awaken not just for itself, but for the sake of all life. It is the hidden goodness inside you that never dies, no matter how much pain you carry. It is the sacred fire that stays lit even when the winds of despair blow hard. It is the indestructible seed of compassion, wisdom, and courage that has been with you since the beginning, waiting patiently for you to remember it. Most people never learn to trust this part of themselves. They are taught to trust their fear, their shame, their doubt. They are taught to believe that their worth is fragile, that their goodness must be proven, that their value depends on constant achievement. But the bodhisattva within you has never played by those rules. It does not shrink when you fail. It does not wither when you are afraid. It does not disappear when you feel lost. It remains steady, quiet, unshakable, waiting for you to turn inward and find it. Learning to trust this inner bodhisattva means daring to believe in your own hidden strength even when you cannot yet feel it. It means refusing to define yourself by your wounds, your regrets, your confusion. It means learning to look deeper than the surface storms and to see the ocean of goodness that was always underneath. And it is not prideful to trust this goodness. It is not arrogance. It is humility of the highest kind. It is admitting that the light inside you was not created by your successes and cannot be destroyed by your failures. It was given. It was planted. It is part of the fabric of your existence, whether you recognize it or not. When you trust the inner bodhisattva, you stop treating yourself as a project to be perfected. You start treating yourself as a sacred being in the middle of an ancient and beautiful unfolding. You recognize that your anger, your fear, your jealousy, they are not proofs that you are bad. They are the rough weather that life brings, the storms that pass over the mountain but do not move the mountain itself. And this changes the way you move through the hardest moments. Instead of collapsing into despair when you fall short, you remember that your deepest self is not damaged by mistakes. Instead of drowning in shame when old patterns resurface, you remember that the bodhisattva within you is patient beyond measure. It is not here to scold you. It is here to walk with you, to rise with you, to shine through you. Trusting the inner bodhisattva also teaches you a new kind of resilience. A resilience not built on gritted teeth and iron will, but on knowing that your spirit cannot be broken, only hidden. It teaches you to meet hardship with the fierce tenderness of one who knows that their essence is untouched. It teaches you to keep opening your heart even when life tempts you to close it. And the more you trust this hidden goodness, the more it reveals itself. Not in grand gestures, not always in dazzling moments, but in quiet shifts, in the patience you offer a stranger, in the kindness you extend to yourself after a hard day, in the courage you show when you tell the truth, even though it shakes your voice. These moments matter more than you know. They are the language of the Bodhisattva made real in your daily life. They are proof that you are already awakening, already embodying the deep compassion that your heart has carried all along. Trusting the inner Bodhisattva also changes the way you see others. When you believe in the indestructible goodness inside yourself, you begin to see it in others too. Even when it is buried under pain, even when it is hidden by fear, even when it is masked by cruelty. You begin to recognize that everyone you meet is carrying the same sacred fire, the same longing to awaken, the same hidden radiance waiting to be seen. This does not mean you excuse harm. It does not mean you allow yourself to be hurt. It means you stop confusing someone's behavior with their deepest nature. It means you understand that healing, awakening, growing, these are messy, non-linear, often painful processes. It means you hold yourself and others with the same patience that the Bodhisattva inside you has always offered. And perhaps most importantly, trusting your inner Bodhisattva means you finally stop living in fear of your own humanity. You stop punishing yourself for feeling deeply. You stop judging yourself for having moments of weakness. You stop abandoning yourself when you stumble. Instead, you meet yourself with a fierce compassion that says, you are allowed to be in process. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be human. And still, always, you are sacred. Tonight, as you breathe and let your body rest, place your hands over your heart and know this: beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the self-doubt, your Bodhisattva nature is alive, waiting, shining, steady. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to deserve it. You do not have to prove it. You only have to trust it. You only have to remember. You only have to return, breath by breath, to the indestructible goodness that was never lost. And the more you trust it, the more you become it. The more you believe in it, the more you embody it. The more you live from it, the more you awaken it in the world around you. You are not broken. You are not too far gone. You are not beyond redemption. You are, and have always been, a living flame of compassion. You are, and have always been, a carrier of light. You are, and have always been, a bodhisattva in the making. Trust it. Breathe it. Become it. When you finally begin trusting the hidden goodness inside you, when you start recognizing the unbreakable bodhisattva light beneath all your fear and pain, something extraordinary shifts. You stop trying so hard to become someone else. You stop confusing your wounds with your worth. But there is still one deeper freedom waiting, one final chain that keeps many people trapped in cycles of shame. Tonight, you step into one of the most liberating truths Buddhism offers. You are not your flaws, because in the deepest view, there is no fixed you at all. Tonight, you learn how to love yourself through the eyes of emptiness. In Buddhist teaching, emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means freedom from rigid identity. It means recognizing that everything you think of as self, every story, every label, every flaw, every success, is not a solid thing. It is a flowing, changing, interdependent process. You are not trapped inside a broken statue. You are a river. You are a song in motion. You are not frozen inside your mistakes. You are something far wider than any single moment. When you see yourself through the eyes of emptiness, You stop identifying so tightly with your flaws. You stop saying, "I am a failure. I am broken. I am unworthy." You begin to see that mistakes, struggles, fears, they arise and pass through you like weather, but they are not who you are. They are visitors. They are temporary conditions, not permanent verdicts. And this realization is not cold or distant. It is one of the most compassionate gifts you can offer yourself. Because when you realize you are not your fear, you can hold your fear with tenderness instead of shame. When you realize you are not your anger, you can meet your anger with curiosity instead of self-hatred. When you realize you are not your sadness, you can sit beside your sadness like a friend without drowning in it. Seeing yourself through the eyes of emptiness means letting go of the desperate need to fix, to polish, to prove. It means resting in the vastness of your own being, knowing that no single emotion, no single thought, no single mistake can define the whole of you. And it changes how you move through life. When you no longer see yourself as a fixed thing, you allow yourself to evolve. You allow yourself to forgive. You allow yourself to begin again, not just once, but endlessly, as many times as needed. You realize that you are not stuck in any moment forever. You are flowing forward, breath by breath, into new possibilities. This understanding also teaches you a gentler relationship with the past. You no longer need to carry your old failures like stones strapped to your back. You no longer need to define yourself by the worst things you have ever done, or the worst things that were ever done to you. You see that those moments were real, they mattered, they shaped you, but they do not imprison you. You are not frozen in them. You are more spacious than any story about you. Loving through the eyes of emptiness also means seeing that your worth does not come from being flawless. It comes from being alive, from being part of the great mysterious dance of existence, from being a unique expression of life itself, unfolding moment by moment in ways that can never be fully captured by any label, any judgment, any fear. And it is not just your flaws that loosen their grip when you see through emptiness. Your successes, your strengths, your pride, all of it is seen with softer eyes. You do not cling to them as proof that you are good enough. You simply bow to them as passing expressions of life moving through you. Beautiful, yes. Worth celebrating, yes. But not the source of your worth. This kind of love is wide. It is not fragile. It is not based on how well you perform or how perfectly you heal. It is based on recognizing that underneath every high and every low, you are already whole. You are already vast. You are already free. And this vision brings deep peace. Because you no longer have to spend your life desperately trying to hold on to success or run away from failure. You no longer have to fear every mistake as a threat to your existence. You can meet life as it comes with an open heart, knowing that whatever rises and falls, your deepest being remains untouched. Tonight, as you breathe and let yourself rest, allow this truth to sink deeper. You are not your flaws. You are not your fears. You are not your failures. You are the space within which all these things arise and pass away. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds the storm. You are not the wound. You are the vastness that contains the healing. You are not the sadness. You are the breath that stays steady underneath the waves. And when you love yourself through the eyes of emptiness, you stop needing to be perfect, to be worthy of love. You see that you were always more than your best day, more than your worst day, more than any day. You are not broken trying to become whole. You are whole learning how to remember yourself. You are not lost trying to be found. You are found learning how to walk through the world with softer eyes. And every time you return to this knowing, you heal not just yourself, but the world around you. Because a heart that knows its own vastness cannot help but see that same vastness in others. A heart that sees its own freedom cannot help but wish that freedom for all beings. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are not wrong for being exactly who you are. You are a living expression of emptiness, dancing itself into form. You are a river moving through 1,000 changing landscapes. You are a note in the endless song of the universe, and you are beautiful even when you cannot see it. You are worthy even when you cannot feel it. You are love even when you forget it. Breathe into this vastness tonight. Rest inside it. Trust it. You are free. You were always free. When you begin to love yourself through the eyes of emptiness, when you stop believing that any flaw or failure can define you, a vast freedom opens before you. You start to breathe differently. You start to live differently. But even then, there is often one lingering voice that tries to pull you back into old prisons. The inner critic. The voice that tries to shrink you, scold you, shame you into smallness. Tonight, you are going to meet that voice in a way few ever think to try, not with war, not with endless arguments, but with something far more powerful: laughter. The inner critic survives by being taken seriously. It feeds on your fear, your guilt, your belief that its harsh words are the truth. It stands tall because you shrink before it. But laughter cuts its power at the root. Laughter deflates it. Laughter shows that you see the game and you are no longer playing. You have been taught to fear the voice that says, "You're not enough. You'll never change. You're too broken," as if it were some wise authority. But what if it's more like a grumpy old clown who forgot it's wearing face paint? What if instead of bowing to it, you chuckled gently and said, "Thanks for your opinion, but I'm busy living my life"? Introducing humor and lightheartedness is not about mocking yourself cruelly. It is about seeing the ridiculousness of expecting yourself to be perfect. It is about recognizing the absurdity of believing that one bad day erases your worth. It is about stepping back far enough to realize that the inner critic is often just an outdated recording, playing fears that don't even fit who you are anymore. When you meet the inner critic with humor, you stop arguing with it. You stop trying to convince it. You simply smile at its worn-out script and move on. You stop giving it the stage. You stop handing it the microphone. For example, when the critic whispers, "You're a disaster," instead of sinking into shame, you could laugh and say, "Yep, a beautiful, glorious disaster who still gets back up." When it says, "You'll never get it right," you could wink and say, "Good thing perfection isn't the goal." This kind of playful resistance disarms the critic because it refuses to take the attack seriously. It refuses to treat the voice as an authority. It treats it as background noise, as static, as the desperate clinging of old fears that have lost their hold. And the more you practice, the faster you spot the critic when it rises. You start catching it mid-sentence. You start hearing the ridiculous exaggerations. You start noticing how repetitive and boring it actually is. and you respond not with a fight, but with a soft chuckle, a shake of your head, a light step forward. This way of meeting the inner critic also builds resilience, because no matter how much you grow, no matter how much you heal, that voice may still pop up from time to time. But it will no longer terrify you. It will no longer control your choices. It will no longer define your days. Laughter reclaims your power. It reminds you that you are bigger than any single thought. It reminds you that life is not a courtroom where you are constantly on trial. It reminds you that you are here to live, to explore, to stumble and dance and wonder, not to meet some impossible standard of flawlessness. Buddhism teaches that clinging to rigid self-views creates suffering. The inner critic thrives on rigidity. You must always be good. You must always succeed. You must never falter. But humor introduces flexibility. It bends the rigid stories until they snap. It creates space. It allows you to move, to breathe, to be. And laughter is not denial. It is a different kind of wisdom. It is seeing the seriousness of life, seeing the sorrow, seeing the fear, and still choosing to keep your heart light enough to float above it sometimes. It is refusing to let pain have the final word. When you laugh with yourself, you practice the deepest form of kindness. You show that you do not have to be perfect to be loved. You show that mistakes are not moral failings, but part of the hilarious, messy adventure of being human. Imagine for a moment how your life would feel if you met your hardest moments with a twinkle in your eye instead of a whip in your hand. If you stumbled and said, "Classic me," with a smile instead of collapsing into shame. If you forgot something important and said, "Guess I'm human after all," instead of spiraling into self-loathing. This is not minimizing your struggles. It is liberating yourself from the chains of perfectionism. It is letting yourself breathe, letting yourself live, letting yourself love even the parts of you that are still learning how to love. And over time, this practice changes the very fabric of your relationship with yourself. The harsh inner voice grows fainter, weaker, less convincing. The lightness you cultivate begins to weave itself into your days. You laugh more easily. You forgive more quickly. You move through mistakes with the grace of someone who knows they were never meant to be a statue. They were meant to be alive. Tonight, as you rest, let yourself feel the possibility of meeting yourself with more laughter. Let yourself imagine facing your old fears, not with trembling, but with a grin. Let yourself feel the weight lifting as you realize you are allowed to find humor even in your own stumbling steps. You are not a failure for being imperfect. You are not doomed because you are still learning. You are not broken because you can laugh at yourself. You are alive. You are growing. You are discovering that freedom does not come from never making mistakes. It comes from never letting mistakes steal your joy. Breathe into that freedom tonight. Let it rise in you like a soft, unstoppable laughter, the kind that says, "I see it all, the beauty, the mess, the wonder, and I choose to keep loving anyway." You are already enough. You are already worthy. And you are allowed to enjoy this wild, imperfect journey, laughter and all. When you learn to laugh at the voice that once ruled you, when you meet your own stumbles with a smile instead of a sword, a deep and lasting softness begins to settle into your heart. You stop being at war with yourself. You start seeing your own humanity not as something to fight, but as something to celebrate. But even then, One final heavy burden often remains hidden in the corners of the heart, the belief that at your core you are broken. Tonight, you take one of the bravest steps of all, letting go of that story for good. The idea that you are fundamentally broken did not begin with you. It was whispered by wounded voices. It was carved by painful experiences. It was reinforced by a world that profits from your doubt. But it was never true. It was never your real reflection. It was only a story, one that grew heavy because it was repeated so many times you forgot it was optional. Self-love deepens when you see that being human does not mean being broken. It means being alive in a world full of impermanence, loss, change, confusion, and wonder. It means carrying both beauty and pain in the same heart. It means stumbling and rising, losing and finding, hurting and healing, not as a mistake, but as the very rhythm of living. You are not broken because you have wounds. You are not broken because you have doubts. You are not broken because you have scars that still ache in the quiet hours of the night. You are a living being walking through a world that was never designed to be easy. You are a heart learning how to stay open even after it has been bruised. And the story of being fundamentally broken was never your burden to carry. Letting go of that story is not about denying your pain. It is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about recognizing that your pain is part of your story, but it is not the end of your story. It is about refusing to make your suffering into your identity. When you grip the idea that you are broken, you limit your life before it even begins. You sit in cages that do not exist. You apologize for breathing. You shrink from your own dreams. You withhold your own love. But when you let that story fall away, even for a moment, you feel the truth rising like dawn through your chest. You were never meant to be a prisoner. You were always meant to be a living mystery, too vast to be summed up by any wound. Releasing the story of being broken also frees you to stop measuring your healing like a contest. You no longer have to keep checking if you are fixed yet. You no longer have to hide your messy days out of shame. You realize that healing is not a destination you must reach before you deserve peace. Healing is the way you keep loving yourself through every season, even the ones where everything hurts. True self-love is not about declaring yourself healed once and for all. It is about dropping the question altogether. It is about knowing you are worthy of tenderness right now, whether you feel radiant or shattered. Letting go of the story of being broken also softens the way you see your past. Instead of seeing your younger self as a series of mistakes, you start seeing someone who did the best they could with what they knew. Someone who survived. Someone who kept reaching for light even when everything around them was dark. And you stop punishing yourself for still having struggles. Struggles are not proof of failure. They are proof of life. They are proof that your heart is still beating, still trying, still daring to care. When you drop the story of brokenness, you also stop demanding that life be pain-free before you allow yourself to feel joy. You stop postponing your happiness until you are perfect. You start tasting the sweetness available even in the midst of uncertainty, even in the middle of unfinished healing. And you realize that real strength is not pretending you have no wounds. Real strength is carrying your wounds with grace, with humor, with love. Real strength is looking at your scars and saying, I am still here, I am still becoming, and that is enough. Tonight, as you breathe and let yourself settle into rest, feel the old story loosening its grip. Feel it slipping away like a heavy coat you no longer need to wear. Feel the lightness of your real being rising underneath. You are not broken trying to be whole. You are whole learning how to live with tenderness. You are not ruined trying to be repaired. You are sacred learning how to unfold. You are not the mistakes you made when you didn't know better. You are not the pain you carried when you were too young to understand it. You are not the shame that was planted in your heart by those who forgot their own light. You are something older, deeper, more resilient than any wound. You are something softer, wider, more mysterious than any mistake. And every breath you take in love instead of fear, every step you take toward your own heart instead of away from it, rewrites the story. You are not broken. You are blooming. You are not defective. You are evolving. You are not lost. You are on a path so ancient, so sacred, it could never be captured in words. Breathe that in tonight. Let it fill the empty spaces shame tried to claim. Let it soak into the cracks where old stories once lived. You are free. You were always free. Not because you have no flaws, no fears, no messy days, but because love was never about earning, because worth was never about winning, because being alive, being conscious, being here was always enough. Let the old story fall away now. Step into the vastness waiting underneath. Meet yourself not as a broken thing to be fixed, but as a living being, sacred and whole, exactly as you are.